I'm just going to play a little bit longer because I love this song. No, LB's going to yell at me. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Over a Couple of Drinks presents Some Fucking Show.
Yeah.
Yep.
Remember that time, faithful listeners, Grandma from Germany, when we did 5 people on a show before and we said, we're never doing that again.
We're doing it again.
We're doing it again.
I forgot to unmute myself. God damn it.
So
You were talking, weren't you?
Yes. I tried.
So if you've been paying attention, we recently put up a new banner officially letting Billy and Jess into the group as full-time people, as LB rolls his eyes because he's just been uncovered from a rock.
LB part-time.
A part-time
LB
LB.
survived.
So we got the whole crew together, and if you noticed that there was a scary jack-o'-lantern just a few seconds ago on the screen, and Terror Time again, we're talking about horror movies tonight.
I didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, because you guys don't see the shit I see.
If you didn't notice, the spooky jack-o'-lantern behind LB's head.
It follows.
Oh, it's walking right behind you.
So, we're talking about our the best horror films of all time, according to us, because we're right, fuck you, internet. That's the title of this video.
Bring the hate. Bring the hate.
We all came with 7 of our favorite horror films, and you're saying to yourself, Bill, I can do math. That's 35. Well, we're going to cut 4, and these are the movies you're going to watch every night in the month of October. That's why we're doing it before October.
35 of them.
All 35.
You have to watch them
One a
every
night.
single day.
One a night.
It's commitment.
Fuck it, we're doing
You
62.
finish them all, you
we're
go
doing
back and you start
62.
again.
One during the day, one during the night.
All of our diehard fans out there. All
Grandma from Germany. We need to come up with a name for her. So real quick, I'm Bill. Right there. Say hi, Birch.
Hey, what's up, Birch?
LB's in the middle.
I'm in the middle.
Yeah. Jess is in the bottom left corner.
Hey!
It's like Hollywood Squares, except shittier. And then there's the dumbass Billy in the bottom right.
Giggles McGee.
Giggles McGee.
Fuck you, Bill.
Just
Ooh.
I'm gonna drink more.
It's
Billy's here to keep
it's
it real.
getting hot in here.
Don't take off your clothes, please.
No, it's just the heat. So LB, what are you drinking tonight? What are you drinking tonight, buddy? Huh?
it's
Water.
not what I'm drinking. It's how I'm drinking it.
You're drinking water.
Through your mouth?
No, it's this pink alcoholic drink.
It's a what?
It's a pink alcoholic drink. It's
You're
called
drinking a
King.
bit. Why don't you have like a fucking twisty straw?
What's important?
Are you drinking pink panty droppers? What are you
No.
drinking? You said pink alcoholic drink?
It's my
Okay.
Transformers cup. Come
It's a
on.
Transform-
And look.
Yes,
it's
LB, we
more
know
than
you
meets
like
the
Michael
eye.
Bay. Okay, we know you like Michael Bay.
This is not.
I
No.
thought Bill said LB. We know you like Nickelback, and I
Yes,
was like,
that's
what
also
the fuck
true.
does that
We
do with
know you
Well-
like Nickelback. Birch,
Yeah.
what are you drinking tonight?
Good old not your father's root beer, so it can be kind of beer, but not really. Tastes good. Get over it.
Riley, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Winking Owl Moscato from Aldi on
Winking
sale for
Owl?
$2.99.
Wanking owl? Is-
Winking.
Wanking?
Oh, I heard
Wanking.
waking. I heard
It-
Wanking owl.
I hope
It
you know,
was on sale for
Wanking
$2.99.
Owl Wine is now our official wine of this podcast. And
Wanking
our logo is Danny DeVito dressed up as an owl just jerking it.
it said
Winking
trash,
Owl.
trash.
Trash!
Trash.
Billy, what are you drinking?
To all my 2 former students that watch our podcast, I'm drinking Soft Parade. It's delicious.
Do you have your students watch this?
Do
Was
you
that an
only
inside
have
joke?
2
I
former?
mean, the
No,
bigger
like,
question is
my kids-
former students no beer?
My kids who graduated found out. There's a couple of them I think who found out about the podcast because they followed us on Twitter.
Oh God.
But they're like sworn to secrecy. So, John, you know you're watching this.
Fuck you,
I don't
John.
think John's watching this, okay? Nobody
Fucking
watches
tell. He's watching it. I know he is.
this. I am drinking Dos Equis right now. And I'll be
Dos
switching
Equis.
to White Russian after I
Hey,
get through.
can we do a drink to the most
This bottle.
interesting man in the world retiring?
He's retiring?
Yeah, he already retired. There's a new guy.
Well, he's
They
not
did
the
like a
most interesting
they
man
did
in the
like a
world.
teaser trailer for the new guy.
Is he less interesting?
Yeah.
No, he's now like the head of a news company. Fuck if I know.
Hey Bill, Because I'm flag illiterate, can you tell me what the flag is behind you?
Oh, the flag is the flag of independence, as flown by the Browncoats in the Great War that they lost at Serenity Valley to the Federation.
Yeah, Firefly. Excuse me.
Thanks, Bill. I didn't know.
Did you not really know?
Uh,
So for the last like fucking year, you didn't know?
Bill, I've been in one podcast in the past year.
And let's be honest, if you're not in the podcast, you're not watching the podcast.
You're not watching the podcast. I know because I can tell when, LB watches the podcast because it shows up as a view.
One view.
One
We
view.
get twice as many views. We get twice as many views as usual.
So, we're going to ask the important question right off the bat because this list is your personal favorite list that makes it the best list in the goddamn world and the internet because that's two different things.
Yeah.
What makes a good horror film, starting with Jess? What makes a good horror film for you?
So
What should your
I'm
list
weird.
really
I'm a
reflect?
creative. I'm like a creative, like really imaginative person. So what makes a good horror film for me is kind of like the imprint that it leaves in my brain, like scary, like silhouettes and whatnot, or concepts like something like monsters or spooky creatures and whatnot that I can imagine actually invading my life. Not like a zombie apocalypse, but like demons. Usually mark good or like good artistic choices. Like you'll see both sides of that in my 7.
In your 7. Okay. Birch.
What
makes a
I
good
do
horror
like.
film?
Oh, what makes a good horror film? It's for me, my favorite kinds of horror films are the ones that A, surprise me, B, are not like I need a better story than just someone going around killing people. I get bored by that. If that's what happens in it, I need there to be like some kind of twist. Like the good guys have an upper hand for a little bit, and then something else happens that knocks them down. Really, just any movie that kind of makes me go, "Oh shit, I didn't think about that." Those are my favorites, and those end up being the ones that scare me the most anyway. So,
Okay. LB.
Kind of what Jess was saying with the visual aspects of a movie. It's like it can be scary without that, the jump out moments. Just the way it's shot, the way things happen on screen or nothing happens. That's part of it. The other part is when what's horrific about the movie is what's real. The horror of humanity versus the supernatural.
Okay. Billy. What makes a good horror film?
The single most important thing in a good horror film for me is environment, the way the film feels. I totally second LB's. Nothing will take me out of a horror film more than a shitty jump scare. I constantly talk about jump scares being the poop jokes of horror. Poop jokes will get a laugh, but is it a good laugh?
Yeah.
A jump scare gets a scare. I mean, I jump at jump scares all the time, but is that a good scare? I look for movies that create environments that make me feel more anxious than anything. That, to me, makes a perfect horror film.
It's great because when we get into the list, and hopefully people will follow along, how much you guys have hit the note for your list kind of thing. That I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. So what makes a good horror film for me is sort of this like what everybody said. Like I like the idea of good settings. Not so much something that could actually happen, all like Jess said with a demon, but more of the practical effects of creatures. Because if it's real on set, it brings a reality to my creative side of my imagination, and it kind of dives into there. And I also really enjoy a lot of horror films that dive into psyche and like people slowly breaking down. On top of that, like if a horror film doesn't have rules, I don't really like it. If it's just horror for horror, or if it's like this creature X is very superpower, but we don't know the powers, so we just kind of move along. It kind of bothers me. Like the new Blair Witch is kind of that way. The monster is just overpowered. Get over it. So there's nothing really they can do. If the heroes don't stand a chance, then I'm not going to sit around and watch them get murdered. It's just no fun.
All right.
Okay, so what we're gonna do here after that, we're gonna go through our top, our 5, and then just briefly talk about what we liked about it, and just kind of keep things moving. And then we're gonna talk more in depth about our top 2 because everybody tried to watch everybody else's top 2s. And tried, not everybody, but we have 5 people on this. I'm sure we can fill time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, who wants to start?
Fuck it, I'll do it.
I was gonna put it on Jess, but all right, you're gonna take the bullet. Go
No,
ahead.
I'll do it.
Go for it.
All right.
I'll take the first bullet.
All right, Billy, number 7.
Number 7. Number 7, I would have to put as the movie 7. Couple quick reasons. First of all, I think Bill and I briefly talked about this. He classifies it more as a thriller. I think the elements of the film, the way it looks, the way that the plot is kind of set up, makes it more of a horror film. Horror in terms of being scary and being traumatic. The acting is great. The special effects are amazing. The end of the movie is pretty fucking perfect. And if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. Morgan Freeman, you can't complain. Yet again, creates that atmosphere of horror, of dread, and the big reveal, the big twist that was marketed really well in the film. I'm not going to spoil it, but makes the whole movie worthwhile. It keeps you suspended, and it keeps you in shock. I think it's a shocking film.
All
So
right.
that's number 7.
That's good. Billy, pick somebody to go. We're doing
Chris
popcorn
Birch.
style. Chris Birch, what's
Birch.
your number 7?
Number 7 is the 2003 remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
Okay.
It kind of holds a special place in my heart because this was when I started to really get into horror movies. When that movie came out, I was in like 6th grade, I think, and I saw it and it freaked me out. I was still kind of learning what was a good horror movie, and it's not really like a great like original idea, obviously, because it's a remake. But what I like about it is that it's not just Leatherface running around slicing people up with a chainsaw. Like the family is really, really interesting. And have you guys seen this one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyone? The sheriff guy, his uncle or whatever it is, he's one of my favorite characters in the movie. And he's not even like the main killer, but he's so good. He's played by Arlie Ermy, and
Who is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's so memorable. The whole family is just a bunch of creeps and all really, really memorable. It's not just like Leatherface taking the whole thing. And I actually was like caring about the characters. Like when they died, I felt really bad about it. Like I felt empathy for them, and that usually doesn't happen. So that's why I like that one.
All right, Birch, pick somebody.
LB.
I'm gonna go with Woman in Black. It's lower on my list because it does sort of rely more on jump scares, but a lot of the movie. This is the Daniel Radcliffe stars in this one. He's I believe he's a Harry Potter. Yeah, he's a widower. I believe, if I remember correctly, and he. I don't actually remember what happens.
What stuck with you?
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
First
He
failure
gets a
of the
job.
film.
He gets this job. He's like an accountant or whatever, and he gets this job, and he has to go to this other place to do this job. It's this old rickety mansion where this ghost of an old woman is, and it's just scary on its own without the jump scares. And like Billy was saying, those can take away from the movie. And in this case, it does, which is why it's lower on our list.
But it's
Nailed
worth,
it.
But it's worth watching. You say it's worth watching.
It's worth watching, I think.
Okay.
I can agree with that.
Yep. LB, pick somebody.
Who hasn't gone yet?
Jess and I.
Jess.
My number 7 is this is hard. The 2015 Poltergeist movie. It's the remake, and I went into it with really low expectations, and it was way better. It was a great standalone. Like if you went into it, because I've seen both of them, and like the old one's good for old reasons, the new one is good for new reasons, and they do a really great job repolishing it. And it's got the typical, it's got a clown in it, like, so that's kind of spooky to some people. And it's got like all the different elements. And again, like I said, like I'm a big paranormal person. Paranormal things kind of like, they get to me. So I dug it a lot, and it was great. and the acting was pretty good, and all the effects were good, and the story was good because it's retold, so hit or miss. So
I heard a friend of mine said that if you go in expecting it to be a haunted house film, don't judge it against the original. That it's actually quite good. It's just a lot of people judged it against this classic, which is really hard to do.
Right, and it's more of a standalone kind of thing. Like I try, like if I see remounts, then usually I try and go into it expecting it to be a remount in its own right, and I'm even more disappointed if it's the exact same thing. So
okay. No.
Go ahead, Bill.
So my number 7 is the 1997 classic Event Horizon, starring Sam Neill. Sam fucking Neill. And Lawrence Fishburne. And it's you're also going to learn real quick that my list is like the science fiction list of this thing. But it deals with a lot
She
of...
says 97?
Yeah. Is it 96?
Okay. I thought it was earlier than that, but go ahead.
It's either 97 or 96. Besides this really terrible opening scene of CG, it does really good with practical effects. It's probably my most goriest film without being schlocky out on my list. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think gore... It doesn't rely too heavily on gore. The gore is really there to make you uncomfortable, and it does. The whole movie is about how they send this ship. The ship went missing like 30 years ago or something like that in space. So, and all of a sudden it pops back up. So they go send a team to recover it. It might not be 30 years, but whatever. And this team goes there, and everything's missing. Nobody's there, and they find out that the ship was meant to make a black hole and kind of like teleport from point A to point B. But what happened was it went into another dimension, which they called Hell, and now the ship is sort of alive. And it possesses Sam Neill, and everyone kind of sees their own personal demons. And it's a lot about everybody going to like this twisted place. And it has like cliche creepy kids, like surgery horror, and like all this terrible gross stuff. But it's also told in a pretty well package, and it's the only thing that Paul W.S. Anderson has to his name, because fuck you, AVP was terrible, and so are the Resident Evil movies.
Why does it sound like a movie version of Dead Space?
Well, this came out before Dead Space, but yeah,
right.
kind of
yeah.
like without the monsters, because like all the monsters are in their head, so to speak. It's a worth a watch. It's not the best film ever. That's why it's my number 7. Breaking down to number 6, Birch, started us off.
All right. So my number 6 is scrolling back up. Okay, so this is one that everyone kind of forgot about, I think, but it's actually a Johnny Depp movie I really like. It's called Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
And
as I like to call it, the Sith Lords are all in one movie together.
Sith Lords are all in this movie. Even like Christopher Lee's in the movie for like 2 minutes.
Christopher Lee, fucking Ian, whatever his
Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah.
Ray Park is in it.
He plays the Horseman.
He plays the Horseman. Besides, Christopher Walken is in this movie.
Christopher Walken is the Horseman.
Yep, with a head. Yep. It's just a really. I find this movie so fun. Like it's there's something mysterious about it. I like Johnny Depp as Ichabod Crane, but he's not playing him as like the goofy school teacher version, like the Disney movie.
It was pre Johnny Depp like changing his acting style.
This was pre Johnny Depp stopped caring and pre Tim Burton rehashing. So
right,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's just a fun gothic dark movie that doesn't. It's like it's adventurous. It's got some twists that are interesting. The whole tree that leads to hell is really creepy. The witch scene in the forest, which I freaked out about as a kid when she like just is like this corpse who like comes to life. It's got some really genuinely good scares. Yeah, I like the movie a lot. I watch it every year.
Good.
Let's go to Jess again.
Me. My number 6 is 28 Days Later. It is by far my favorite zombie movie. Like if you take zombie movies not as a zombie comedy, but more as a straight zombie movie, the imagery, I actually own the soundtrack to it. If that says anything to it, it does a great job at like setting an environment that's like so. It's like it's cinematic, but at the same time, it's like raw, And like the zombies are on point. The like the storyline is on point, and like it's not. And it was really like a trailblazer. Like if I were to go back and watch a zombie movie, I would choose that above any other zombie movie that I've seen, and I would be willing to argue that.
It was the one that brought apart the rage zombies, the fast movers, right?
Yeah.
Infected.
Yeah, the infected, which kind of, I mean, you now see them, now you have like, whole subgenres now, but that says something that this movie came in with the idea of fast moving rage zombies.
Right.
Yes.
And not only was a hit, people accepted it. It now is a part of zombie culture and a subgenre, and it's respected as that. That's something to note.
And a really nice, good career booster for Cillian Murphy as an actor.
Absolutely.
Except fuck him in Sunshine, because he should have died.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He was a prick in that movie. Anyways, that's not the point. Jess, pick somebody.
LB.
My next one, number 6, is Saw. Saw, I think, is one of those movies. Why is everyone?
No, I'm
Well,
laughing.
No, I love that movie.
I
love
give you a
that
thumbs
too.
up.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because when you put that on the list, you literally said "fuck you, Bill." Like I was supposed to hate this movie. But
I thought you would.
When you're done talking, I'll tell you what I think about Saw.
All right. Anyway, so Saw is one of those movies that it's all about the horror of humanity again. All these people are put in this situation. It's an awful situation, and there's a way out, but you have to, basically sacrifice your some of your deepest held beliefs to do it. I mean, you gotta. In Saw 1, I mean, they're given opportunities to basically kill the person in the room with them.
Yeah.
Didn't we spend like 3 days doing
Yeah,
a
we
Saw
watched it, like, all
marathon?
We did a Samarama for your mama.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, and that's
What I like about Saw was that I didn't watch this movie until pretty much 10 years after the first one came out or something, and I still hadn't somehow had it spoiled for me, and I never saw the twist coming, which was great.
yeah.
It's a good
Brilliant.
list.
Saw 1 is a great modern horror. Can we still call it modern? Yeah, modern horror film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My problem with the Saw series is that it falls too fast into torture porn.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
I think-
but I really, 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 really love the overarching story.
Well, the first 3 movies had the best amount of plot.
Mhm.
That's why I will always hold the first 3 really well. But when
I
they
really
start
like
killing,
5. I don't know why.
when they're like 6 or 7. When they first started killing Chester Bennington from fucking Lincoln Park in one of the movies, I was like, peace him out.
Peace.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
he's one of the opening deaths, I think, in like
Mhm.
the 6th or 7th movie.
That's like the car shop one.
Yep, the car shop
Yep.
one.
Okay.
And it even there's an interview with the guy who directed most of the movies, worked on them, and he can't even tell you what half the deaths come from, what movie they come from,
Well-
which shows you how generic they are.
Also,
the first one's great though.
The first one's great. Like 2 and 3 start causing these echoes throughout, where it's always the same setup for the torture porn. Like there's a group of people who have to get out, or one person is demanding the fate of everybody else to get out, and it's like it becomes very stale and unoriginal. Other than the traps are being really original, but they also you don't care about these people. When you get back to the main plot, I cared about the plot, even in 4, 5, and 6 or 7 or whatever. The plot was really great. But nothing
Right.
one deserves to be on this list and should be watched for Halloween movies.
Yes.
Absolutely.
LB, pick somebody.
Billy.
All right. Number
you guys.
6.
I'm always going
Number-
first.
Number 6. LB and I are going to have a nice little contention today with my number 6. The 2008 film Let the Right One In. I believe it's a Swedish film. Not explicitly a horror film per se. If you want to go on YouTube, there's a lot of great analysis of this movie that's going to be way better than I can talk about it. But Let the Right One In does a lot of horror without the visual. So it's what's implied through the film, what's implied through the scenes that happen in the movie. Brief synopsis. A small girl moves into a new apartment complex. A little boy meets her, finds out she's a vampire, and kind of a love story starts. But there's a lot of
Is this
defense.
Twilight?
No,
I
it's
had-
way
I had to
exactly.
do it. I'm
No,
sorry,
I knew
I'm
you were
sorry.
going to say that, you asshole.
I'm sorry. I had to. It was a setup.
Way better than Twilight in that it's the instance of young love, and what this young, like, super immortal, powerful vampire girl will do to protect a boy that she loves through one of the most violent scenes of a film I have ever seen. And just to give a quick synopsis, these boys are torturing this poor kid. They're holding his head underwater, trying to drown him. The vampire girl comes in, grabs him, and rips the dude's head off. But without actually seeing it, all you see is his shot from under the pool. The boy's feet get dragged along the pool like 3 or 4 times, and then his head just drop into the water. You never actually see the violence, but what's scary is what is implied through seeing it. There's a lot of implication in the movie, and it creates a nice, horrific environment once the boy finally finds out that she's a vampire, it's also based off a old novel, a book that they cut a lot of material out to put it into a film and to not get an NC-17 rating. Definitely worth checking out. I believe the original is on Netflix, the last I knew. But my roommate really got me into the film, and I've loved it ever since. Definitely one of my favorite scary films of all time. Number 6. I pick Bill because no one else picked him.
Yeah. So my number 6, I fear might be on the chopping block just because I don't think anybody else will ever get the reaction I got out of this movie. It's Maggie, which was a 2015 movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Abigail Breslin. Is that how you pronounce her name? Breslin?
Yeah. Breslin, yeah.
Breslin.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix?
Or
okay.
Hulu or something. It's on Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon. It's on one of the streaming sites.
This movie, when I first started to watch it, I had to turn it off because it was rough. Not in the sense that it was badly acted, badly directed, or anything, but the content in it hurt my soul so bad I couldn't continue watching it. Basically, the plot is Maggie, in this post-apocalyptic, not really, like, the society's breaking down in the zombie world. Except when you're bitten by a zombie, you have close to a month and a half of slowly degenerating into a cannibal, undead monster. So she's bitten, tells her family, don't come find me. I'm going to check myself into quarantine. And her dad, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, hunts her down and takes her back home. And it's just this movie about her slowly turning into a zombie and Arnold playing this overprotective father reconciling with it. It's like every good zombie movie should be about something else, not zombies. And this is just a giant movie about losing a kid. Losing someone you absolutely love. Like, you guys don't know because you're not parents yet, but like the idea of me losing a kid, one of my kids, and this was before my second son was born, and all the like gearing up to all the problems he would have, I was like, I can't fucking deal with this right now. I got to turn it off because it's the slowest of slow burns. It's like boiling water with a matchstick, and I don't know if it ever pulls off, but the Arnold nails it out of the park. He never pulls Arnold Schwarzenegger. He plays caring father, and it's awesome. Abigail Breslin, this is her fucking movie. She owns it. It's fantastic, but it's slow. It is so painfully slow that you are forced to watch every moment of this happening, and it was heartbreaking. It's literally a heartbreaking film. It makes you feel uncomfortable.
I read like a description of it, and it kind of fucked me up.
Yeah, that's the movie. That movie finally fucked me up.
Finally, nice to see Arnold doing a movie that's not a 2-line shoot 'em up movie, something real.
Funny thing is, he probably may only have like 10 lines in the whole film, but he's very powerful in the whole movie. That's what I'm saying. It's like great shit. Yeah. I would recommend it in the sense that, like, in my mind, this is like the movie you start out October with. It's a slow gearing you up into it, but feeling incredibly uncomfortable the whole time.
Right.
So we're going down to number 5. Jess, go. Number 5.
Me?
Yeah.
My number 5 is The Ring. And I know a lot of it, like, what I had to do is take my opinion of it when it first came out versus my opinion of it now. Really, The Ring was innovative. There wasn't anything else like that in English around. I mean, that's a real thing because it's a remake of Ring You, which is a Japanese film.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot. Honestly, people like I don't watch a whole lot of things with subtitles because I don't have the time to give something my undivided attention. It's selfish of me. I deprive myself. I understand. However, comma, like this movie, when I saw it when I was young, when I saw it in theaters, it fucked me up. And you're like, oh my god, the phone's ringing 7 days, blah. And then of course it's like messed up other people for totally different reasons. It shows like a horse dying and all kinds of weird things. And again, for me, a lot of it. A lot of what makes a horror movie for me is the silhouettes. And I guess that's the best way that I can say it. Like the images that like they leave behind like in my brain. And the image of this girl like with the jerky like disjointed movement crawling her way across the floor towards me and the TV with static and everything like that. All of those things that it left behind were just I'd never seen anything like it before. Well, and then of course they did Ring U and they did The Grudge and now they're making Rings. They're making another one, so I don't know if I'm gonna see that in theaters. But
Ring.
I think it's called Rings.
I agree, Jess, but like the cultural significance of the movie Ring and what it did for imagery and everyone, whether you've seen the movie or not, you know the girl climbing out of the TV.
Yeah,
everybody knows.
I still remember when that movie came out, and everyone at school was just like, "I don't know what to think anymore. I'm scared of everything." It made sense.
I think so much.
And you just like prank phone call your friends because you don't have caller ID, and you're like 7 days, and you hang up.
Star 69.
And then like star 69, yeah, like star 69 to find out who you are, and you're like, I got you. I used the other thing. But it really just deserved it. It deserved to be on my list. It's one of my all-time favorites. I own the DVD for Christ's sakes.
I would say it deserves to be on a list like this because again, we're so desensitized to it because we grew up with it, but it was a huge deal. On top of that, the one thing that did really good was like, the video was kind of gruesome, but it never did over-the-top gore. It was always like creepy image of a kid coming out of the TV, fucking scary. All of a sudden, boom, next scene, guy's dead. It was it was really unique in
which
the
left
way.
to our imagination, which was
the most you saw was like a disjointed jaw.
Yeah, but it was
like also scary.
Like that.
It wasn't like head being ripped open, blood everywhere kind of thing. Which there's nothing wrong with that.
Rated PG-13, like.
Yeah, but like that says something about the quality of horror. It really does.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Bill.
Oh, my number 5 is between Maggie and this film are my only new-esque films. Everything else is 97 and below. Was Krampus. Fucking Krampus. Krampus came out last year. You're thinking, well, why would I watch a Christmas movie for Halloween? No, it's that good. Okay, this is like, I described it to somebody as, this is the modern day version of what Gremlins was. You know how the original Gremlins you laughed at, but you really shouldn't have been laughing at it? I don't think I laughed at Krampus. I knew it was trying to be funny, but it's kind of fucking twisted. In which it basically highlights the shittiness of people around the holidays and how one family kind of pushes it over the edge. So Krampus, the shadow of Santa Claus, comes and like takes on this whole neighborhood. And the amount of practical effects is awesome. The sound design is stellar. Like someone jokingly said it should have won an Oscar for sound design. It should have, because like the sound effects were awesome. There's a whole scene, like there's one scene where they use a lot of CG and it's interspliced with another scene going on where they used all puppets, and it was unique and cool and very awesome, minus the CG was shit. But like this whole puppet fight
was like intentionally shitty though, it seems like.
Yeah, it felt like it was intentionally shitty and it was hammed up a lot, but like the puppet scenes going on was cool. And like Krampus himself was awesome because you never saw his face. When they do a close up on his face, he's wearing this flesh mask of Santa Claus, and you kind of go, "What the fuck is going on?" And it's twisted, it's dark, and it's just everything you need out of a decent horror film. So watch it for October. Watch it on Christmas. It's that fucking good. I'm probably gonna go buy it on Blu-ray. I'm gonna hand you the code, Billy.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, so who hasn't gone yet? LB. Number 5.
Okay, my next.
The last one.
Everyone hasn't gone yet. You're the second person. You're the second person that went, Bill. So you
for
still
five?
got.
For 5?
He's
For
used to
5.
being the last one.
We're at 5.
Listen, I am
Yeah,
two.
I'm used to Bill being last.
I am 2 beers in, and I've been the last pick every time. We're getting drunk tonight, folks. I'm gonna start doing gin shots.
Oh, you did that last time, Bill.
Am I going for real?
You're going
Yeah,
for real because here's the
LB
gin.
go.
My next
Talk
one is
over him. You know how he
Insidious.
gets. Yes.
Insidious was one of those movies where I went to start watching. I'm like, oh god, here we go, stupid, whatever jump scary horror movie, and I was wrong. I mean, it does have those jump scares.
Oh, it has at least one really, really good jump scare.
Darth
Yeah,
Maul.
but they're
Shit my
pretty
pants
good
jump scare.
scares. Yeah. This is a movie. This family, they move into this big house. It's kind of old, and shit starts going weird, and they think the house is haunted, and it's much more deeper than that. And their son can
Falls
walk,
into, like, a coma.
falls into a coma and shit, and they're being haunted. Specifically, the people themselves are being haunted, not the house. Is that a spoiler? What's
No,
wrong?
I'm Bill right now.
Watching Bill.
What's wrong, Bill?
We'll talk. Keep going.
Out of the bottle.
Oh,
Anyway, I'm
I had to
so
mute myself
glad you
'cause it's
put
over.
this on your list because this was like a couple. This was one of them. Like, there's a couple of them that ended up on everybody's list that I was like, hell yes. I was kind of hoping that it wasn't like by not putting it on my list, it was going to show up somewhere else, and this is one of them. Like, this is for the longest time. If anybody and still to this day, if anybody asks me for a scary movie, I'm going to tell them this one.
mhm.
Check it out, go see it. Don't go see the other 2. Don't go see Insidious 2 or 3. Just
There's no
don't.
2 and 3. Who the
Dude,
fuck?
there's
There's
no
a 2
third
and
one?
3.
Two's not
Return
terrible.
of
After
Darth
the
Maul.
first one was pretty
Two's
disappointing.
fucking weird,
It's
and
disappointing.
3 is fucking weird.
We're gonna converge.
But the
about this movie.
original was real good. And there was a lot of things, and granted, the Darth Maul character is just fucking weird.
What?
Why would you choose that?
You not
why
seen
would
this,
you
Bill?
choose the
I
makeup
watch
design?
good movies. I'm gonna drink some more gin.
Yeah, I'm gonna drink more beer.
It's good.
No,
It's And
when
it's
did
good
this movie come out?
Like
2008 or so,
8?
Ish.
Really?
Really?
ish.
But it wasn't that
Insidious
long ago.
release date.
No,
Ish.
I want to say 2010.
United States of America on April 1st, 2011.
2011.
Okay, so
Oh
Close.
god, I was like, who are the
2008-ish.
Google just
Oh,
told me.
2011 was my
What's the
exile.
blackout years?
It was my exile into Traverse City where I was poor. So that's why it slipped through my fingers. And hey, look,
I watched
gin.
this one on Netflix
Was that
like 2 years
2011?
ago.
I thought that was 2012.
You're
We're gonna
22.
talk about Insidious later.
Okay,
Oh, it's getting cut, isn't it?
Oh, buddy.
Okay. okay, is that it? You good? Pick
I
somebody.
think it's one of those movies where there's children in the movies, and children are normally safe,
Not this one.
and in this case, it's not so true, and that's pretty for a horror movie.
It's
they're-
upsetting.
they're-
Pretty far.
yeah. All right. Birch.
Okay, so my number 5. My number 5 is a movie that everyone else hates. It's
What?
called Scream.
It's what?
Scream.
Oh no!
The new TV series is pretty good.
I didn't watch that.
It's actually worth your time.
Is it? Okay.
It's on,
Back then,
it's on the Hulu's.
No, I adore Scream because it doesn't take itself super seriously, and I sometimes really really like when horror movies don't take themselves so seriously. This one didn't become horror comedy like Scream 4 was. I remember watching Scream 4 in theaters, and I was dying laughing. It was just the funniest thing. But with Scream, it's like they actually it was Wes Craven being brilliant, because he realized, he's like, we're in a point, I think Scream came out in 1997 or something like that. He's like, we are in a point where a lot of horror movies are all doing the same kind of thing, that we were running out of things to explore. What if we take all these horror movie tropes and make a movie that almost satirizes them, but also embraces them and says, this is why we love horror movies. And it came up with a really clever
96.
design.
96.
Wasn't that? I was off on 1 here. I'm fine with it.
Scream was only 96. Wow.
age.
Wow.
It was the first. It was the first like big time I saw a meta film happen, where it was meta but also embraced it. It wasn't like meta making fun of it. It wasn't a.
It wasn't
parody.
making fun of it. It was like, this is why we love these kind of horror movies.
It reminds
And
me
then-
of Shaun of the Dead to an extent.
Yes.
Of
To an extent,
how,
yeah.
It's
no
the
homage.
that vein.
It's the Shaun of the Dead, except minus that one really goofy scene in Shaun of the Dead. It's the Shaun of the Dead of slasher films. Is a good.
Yes,
one.
yes.
And I also love that I like the main character. She's actually a pretty good character. And I also, this movie... Bill, we have like another hour to go, man.
It just got triggered so hard.
So, this movie did create one of my favorite characters in any horror movie ever, which is Randy, who's the guy who like works at a video store and just knows everything about horror movies and loves them. And
Is
he's the one
that
who like created
Jamie
the
Kennedy?
rules. Yeah,
Jamie, yeah.
love that character. Yeah, so I had fun with Scream. It's my number 5. Finish this off, Billy.
All right, finish this off. Number 5. Number 5 for me is similar to Bill, a very recent film. Very weirdly mislabeled as what looks to be The Vivitch, but actually The Witch.
The bitch.
The Vivitch. If you look at the title of it, it's 2 V's.
That
two V's, yeah.
bitch.
Yeah, it's 2 V's instead of a W.
What's the goat's
also,
name?
Black Phillip,
Black Phillip.
which is an amazing new hard cider, which you need to try. It tastes
Really?
exactly like wine. It's really good. The Witch, if you don't know, if you haven't seen it recently, is, I won't spoil a lot, but it takes place during kind of Salem witch trial times. Fans of The Crucible will kind of like it. I don't know what this was, but
It's your thing. Own it. That's your category shit now.
a baby goes missing. A baby goes missing from a family, and they start to blame it on witches, and it very quickly falls into kind of the feeling of The Crucible. If I could show R-rated movies as a teacher, I would show this movie alongside The Crucible, because it does a lot with witch accusations. It does a lot with witchery. It's a super slow burn horror film. What's up, Bill?
You just need them to have their parents sign it.
Sign the permission slip.
Because
Exactly.
we watched Macbeth with boobs.
Yes, Macbeth with boobs. The only kind of Macbeth you need, really.
Also known
The-
as Boob
the-
Bath.
There were boobs in
Boop
Macbeth
bath,
movie,
boop bath.
or
No,
like
it-
Macbeth had boobs.
It was a Macbeth
Both.
movie made by Playboy, so that when he goes to see the witches the second
Ooh.
time, there's just tits everywhere.
Do you know approximately what year that is, in case I wanted to look it up?
Let me as Billy continues talking, I will look it up for you.
That's the Roman Polanski one, right?
I think so.
Yes, I think so too. But a very beautiful, Bill. A beautiful slow burn horror film that's more about the atmosphere of knowing that there is a maybe potentially dead baby in the midst of this film. Also, like most white people are afraid of, there are creepy, scary twins. Every white person is afraid of creepy, scary twins, which will be in relation to another movie on my list. Great old school horror film that gets to avoid a lot of the tropes of modern horror films because of the time period that it takes place in. Number 5, The Witch.
All right, pick somebody for the number 4.
Number 4 is going to go to LB.
Okay. My next
That's
one.
you.
Thanks. My next one is Peeping Tom.
Hold on.
What?
1971's Macbeth.
Thank you.
Oops.
Sorry.
So
Sorry,
speaking of older films, Peeping Tom is from 1960.
Shit.
I believe it predates Psycho, but by like months, or it's around the same time. It's a British film. It's about this guy who goes around with a camera on a tripod, and on the end of one of the legs of the tripod is a blade, and he films himself killing people. The point being, he's making a documentary of what true horror really is. So the faces of these people as they're, oh shit, and you're walking slowly at me with a blade and stabbing me.
That's
Jesus
my move.
Christ,
That's
Obi.
my move. Get the fuck out of here.
Made it in 1960.
LB, the
And-
camera guy, loves this movie. What the-
Imagine that.
1960. You're right.
Yeah. And it's I mean, it's not terrifying like, oh my god, this is so scary, but it's again that psychological horror of why is this guy doing this, and it's kind of explained in the movie, like I said, the documentary thing, because, and this might sound familiar if you've watched Jessica Jones, but when he was a child, his parents experimented on him by videotaping him going through terrifying experiences. So he's kind of continuing that.
All right.
Yes, Bill.
Psycho came out September 8th, 1960. Peeping Tom came out May 1960. Well done, LB. You win a cookie. Good job.
Really is really good.
I felt like it.
But if you enjoy Psycho, you would probably enjoy Peeping Tom. So.
Pick someone.
Watch it is what I'm saying. Jess.
That's me. We're at 4. We're at 4 already. The Conjuring is my number 4. The Conjuring is the last movie in the movie theater who's made me scream from fear. I distinctly remember going to see it in the movie theater in the summer of 2013 in a movie, and I was terrified, and I loved it. I loved it. Horror is one of my favorite genres of film. I'm constantly looking for new ways to be scared or intrigued or have nightmares. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me, but I love it. And The Conjuring got that. Again, and with in a genre where so many things are just rewashed and rewashed and rewashed these age, you'll notice that a lot of everyone's, they have it's 90s or earlier. There's a small handful of them that are from the 2000s, but it's not a lot. And I feel like it is one of the strong. It's based on a true story. It's based on the couple that did the Amityville Horror and et cetera, et cetera. So there, that there's some truth to it. And again, paranormal geek right here. So I loved it. And I will repeatedly watch it until the end of time. Fuck yourself, Bill. What do you have to say for yourself?
No, the problem with The Conjuring...
Bill started drinking gin, and now he's starting
That's
to
the problem. That's the
apart.
underlying problem. He's like, haha, you have a fucking opinion.
No, my problem with The Conjuring is tied to Insidious, because it stars Patrick Wilson, and he's in both of them. So they kind of blur together to me to going, wait, which film is this? So I get really frustrated at the two, because I'm like, is this the one with the Annabelle tie? No, it's not that. Push it away.
Bill, I have the same problem with Watchmen and Phantom of the Opera.
God damn it, LB. God damn it, LB.
Wait, what?
I hate everything.
Who? What?
He's Raoul or whatever.
It's alright. Go back
right?
to sleep in your gin, Bill.
He's
that the guy's
Raoul.
name?
I never saw Phantom of the Opera.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm missing a whole lot.
No, because I saw it on Broadway. So
Oh yeah.
motherfucker was in Prometheus. Fuck Patrick Wilson.
Chris Birch, what's your next one?
I'm not gonna talk much about this one because everybody knows and seen it. It's Exorcist. But The Exorcist freaks me out because the idea of demon possession genuinely freaks me out. And this movie does a really good job portraying that and really hitting the fear points on that. I like the characters. I like the priests, both of them. I like that it's not the scariness is how are we gonna save this kid as opposed to she's going around killing people. And it's got some of the scariest shots in cinema, like her coming down the stairs backwards. It's also really funny.
Vomit.
You
vomit.
Mhm.
Your mother talks in hell.
Are you gonna watch the TV show?
I don't have cable, so no.
It's on the Hulus.
I don't have Hulu either because I have Netflix.
You can get the first episode on PlayStation
Okay.
Network for free.
What he
We're
said.
advertising. Please sponsor us, PlayStation Network.
Network.
The PlayStation
Thank
is
you.
up with that fat. man.
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm interested. I'm
I'm interested. I want to check it out. But Yeah. Oh, and then it's funny because like when the demons are just when she's just swearing, it's like the most crude shit, and it's coming from this little kid, like 8-year-old kid. And it's just really
Yeah.
funny.
Chris, I will always remember the line. I know this is such a stupid line to say, but the whole "your mother sucks cocks in hell" thing is like, firstly, perfectly delivered, and then just a perfectly
cocks in hell.
Yeah, just a memorable line in that movie.
Well, and then if I was the priest, I'd probably punch her in the face if she said that to me.
Didn't they do
like,
that parody in like Scary Movie or something? She said
Probably.
something, just like fucking railed her in the face.
I think so.
What all the rest of us would have done.
Pretty much.
Who hasn't gone yet with this one?
Billy.
Is it just Billy?
And-
Okay,
Billy
let's go.
and Bill.
Let's
Bill
go, Bill.
Williams.
Okay. My number 4 is the 1986 remake of the classic The Fly, starring
With Jeff Goldblum.
with Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Bill, you're gold blooming. Bill, you're gold. Chill out.
No, because this hits so many points that I like in horror films. It's a slower burn. It's a descent into madness. It's a descent into a monster, and it's really disturbing. Like it's unhinging. It's sometimes hard to watch, seeing a man fall apart, literally fall apart. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's like this remake is so bare bones basic that it worked. It's like one room, you know, and it's all focused on Jeff Goldblum. You know, he builds a teleporter. A fly DNA gets introduced, and unlike the original 50s version where the heads got swapped, his genetic code starts to degrade into this fly monster, and it's him slowly losing his mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic, and you know, in '86, it was quite an accomplishment to see the monster. I think it still kind of holds up, not as well as my top 2 are, because my top 2 are like cinematic masterpieces in a sense. This one, really, really good, very disturbing, unhinging. We make fun of Jeff Goldblum, but you know, there's a reason why he was top dog.
He had his time.
Fucking love good. I fucking love Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff
Like
Goldblum.
I love
that
Jeff
is the
Goldblum.
reason why I
think
will watch
even-
that movie.
Even people who don't love Jeff Goldblum secretly love Jeff Goldblum.
Well,
You
I
can't-
don't think Jeff Goldblum works as an actor in 2015, 2016.
fuck
but
you.
the
Independence
80s
Day was great.
Fuck you.
I'm pretty sure that he is. I'm pretty sure he's headlining like a TV show right now.
Is
It
he
doesn't mean
doing
he-
another TV show? Because he had a TV show a few years ago called Reigns. It was awesome. Okay, by a few years ago, it's probably closer to 10 now because I'm old.
Yeah.
Anyways, Cronenberg's The Fly. It was fantastic. Billy, go.
Number, what are we? Oh God, number
4.
4?
Yeah.
4.
3.
Uh,
4.
3?
Did you go
4.
4?
You're the last
4.
4.
4. Okay, building off what LP.
LP.
Let's play.
Drop that LP, boy.
Let's play. Psycho. One of the, I think that's an easily iconic film, but a movie that gets away with showing absolutely nothing in terms of violence, and I think obviously iconic for the time. We're not going to talk about that shitty shot-for-shot remake with Vince Vaughn, because that movie was fucking terrible.
Talking about
Forgot that happened. Oh my god.
Yes, it did. It did. But a film, Hitchcock himself is someone who has created iconic films, and I think the imagery and the way that movie is portrayed, the way the stabbing is portrayed, a lot of the imagery in that movie is iconic. And I think if you look at it for the time that it came out, it was horrifying for the time that it came out. I don't know if it holds up as well today as some of the other movies on all of our lists, but I love that iconic stabbing scene. It's all about the music. It's all about the shadowing. It's all about the work.
For the record, Jeff Goldblum is currently in filming for Thor Ragnarok.
Fuck yeah.
And he was in the last.
Sam Neill's in it too.
He was in the
What?
last.
Sam Neill just got cast in it.
Fuck my pick of Psycho. Let's talk about Jeff Goldblum.
He is also in the last season of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and
Unbreakable.
was pretty decent character in the new Independence Day movie. Fun fact: I'm not obsessed with Jeff Goldblum.
This is Billy. This is Jess.
Just Jeff
I was
Goldblum.
just really focused on
She just psycho stabbed my fucking speech.
Billy, have you seen they sell a curtain now, like a shower curtain
Yep.
that's just an image of the shadow with him with the knife?
That's
Oh,
awesome.
I need
I
to
don't
buy
want
it.
I don't want that.
I don't want
I
it.
want that.
I
Every
want
time
it.
I wash my hair, I'd forget I have it, and then
Scare myself. No,
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
that's my number 4 pick. I think that's my number 4 pick more.
And then you would need to buy a bath mat, like a slip-resistant bath mat.
Oh shit!
Uh,
You guys didn't tell me Jamie Alexander was also confirmed in Thor Ragnarok.
I don't even know who that is. All right, moving on.
Fucking Lady Sif, come on.
Fuck
Billy.
you, Bill.
Billy.
Talk about number
Billy,
3. Go.
Number
what's your
three.
number 3, Bill?
Bill,
Bill.
that's me. Number
Number
3.
three.
Captain Jinface, that's your name?
No, Qui-Gon Jinny.
You remember what's on your list?
Number 3 is this was gonna be awesome, but then LB cut it off his list. But my number 3 was Evil Dead 2: Dead by Dawn. But, well, it was kind of cool that so many iterations of this series ended up on our list, and then you were an asshole.
Fair enough.
I picked Evil Dead 2 over Evil Dead 1. Some people say it's a little bit more goofy, but I saw it kind of as a way of the main character. Oh, okay. Before I get into that, I'm all over the place. They lost the rights to Evil Dead 1, so when they made Evil Dead 2, they kind of remade it at the same time, and it cut out a lot of extra characters and a lot of fluff. You don't need the extra friends. So
They'll be remade in the movie later.
fuck it, don't worry about it, because they remade it again for the
Fix it in
third time.
post.
But this movie is more of a descent of madness for the main character, because everyone says, "Oh, it's more goofy." They're talking about the one scene where everything starts laughing at the main character Ash, and he starts laughing back. But if you look at it a way of a man's psyche breaking, it's quite interesting to watch. It's also probably the most goriest film on my list, just because they use buckets and buckets of blood. But I love the scene where his hand gets infected, he fights his hand, and he cuts his hand off with a chainsaw. Like, the logical steps made there is that of an insane man. On top of that, the low budget prosthetic work in this movie was astounding. It really was quite unique, and I'm sorry, but the mutated, what was that? Greta? Was it Greta Witch? The Greta Witch is fucking terrifying. On top of that, it also gave us the staple of, if you cut your arm off with a chainsaw, naturally put the chainsaw on your arm. And you have the probably the greatest lines in horror movie history, tool shed and groovy. So Evil Dead 2, classic staple. It beats Evil Dead 1 for me because of the psychological break. Let's go with Jess.
Me.
Your number 3.
My number 3. Let me find out. My number 3 is one of. It made it onto this list because it is one of my most favorite movies ever. It's on my top 3 or top 5 in the universe. If you take out cartoons, top 3. And it's Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods is a fucking work of art. Like, when it came out, and this is where the yelling starts happening, Bill, because I get excited. But when Cabin in the Woods came out, I had to argue its point to other less intelligent people who thought that it sucked.
Shit.
in the
I
green
shit
room.
you not. In the green room, everywhere. Because people went into it thinking that it was going to be a horror movie.
It is.
And it is.
I would hope so.
It's
That's why we're
a different
doing
kind of. It's a different kind of horror movie, though. Like, it's not taking itself seriously. It plays into the whole, like, it's sort of like a joke thing. And one of the movies that I thought about putting into my countdown was 13 Ghosts, and I feel like there's a lot of reflections in Cabin in the Woods as there is in 13 Ghosts, and there's so many different, like, God, it's amazing. It's so self-aware and basically meta, but like not really meta, because it's making fun of the fact that it's being meta, like from the moment that the title screen goes.
It's
Like,
the
It's
logical.
fantastic.
It's a logical ideal, like the idea sequel to Scream. Like, the idea of Scream was like breaking down what made slasher films happen. This was breaking down what made every horror film
What
happen.
made people
Yeah.
think about what made slasher films happen. I mean, like, there's so many fucking levels to it, and it's great. And it's a horror film because of the setup, because despite the fact that it's self-aware, the storyline, the monsters, the creatures, like, all of that is still kind of terrifying, and there's still, like, it's humanity against itself.
Well,
without spoiling, because
we're
if you
gonna spoil
haven't seen it, you need to speak. You want me to spoil it?
No, we're gonna spoil it because what I was gonna bring up, because it's also a love letter to Hollywood about horror films,
Right.
about how the idea is that they go down to this basement, and there's all these trinkets and things and things, and it's them choosing their own death, and yet they pick the same generic inbred zombie thing over and over and over again because Hollywood keeps making these fucking movies over and over and over again, instead of something like taking a risk about a fucking merman or a unicorn that stabs people.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and like, you know, what initially drew me to it was the fact that, like, it paralleled Cabin in the Woods, Evil Dead franchise, and everything like that. And there are certain elements of it that, yes, like, absolutely, like, the girl gets drugged and makes out with a fucking, like,
Wolf.
moose head.
Yeah.
Or, well, it's a wolf because it's not a moose, because they didn't want to do the direct reference.
No, and
But like, it was set up like the cabin from Evil Dead, and it's just like, God, it's so good. It's a work of art.
No,
I'm sorry, I get so excited.
when I first saw the trailer for it, I actually thought it was the Evil Dead remake. Because it
Yeah.
was set up that way.
That's
And I
what
was like,
everyone thought initially.
oh shit, is this the Evil Dead remake? Because that's gonna be great, you know? And it wasn't. I was like, okay. On top of this, what makes this movie so memorable for me is that I saw it as a double feature with my brother. I went to see him in Texas. We saw, is it Lockout? I think it's Lockout. Basically the third escape from whatever movie with Guy Pearce, which it was fun, it was entertaining, and then we bought tickets to go see Cabin in the Woods, so it was a double feature of awesome movies, and we were both like, "This movie's sweet."
The thing that's really funny about that movie is that movie was filmed years before it came out, was put back shelved because no one thought it was going to succeed. Chris Hemsworth scores the role of Thor,
yep.
And they're like, "Oh shit, people are going to want to see him in more things. Fucking put it out there." I don't think we ever would have saw it if Chris Hemsworth hadn't had
The big part.
such a prolific role.
I didn't
as
know
Thor.
that.
Yeah, that's
if
why.
I remember correctly, I've read that somewhere, that movie was pulled out of essentially put into a vault and said, "This isn't going to work. We've already made it, but fuck it, we're not going to put it out."
Yeah.
And then Chris Hemsworth blew up as Thor, so they were like,
Put it out there.
yeah. And he had such a small part in it anyways, which is kind of funny.
It's kind of funny.
It's a good part.
My major one complaint with the whole movie is at the very, 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 very end. Spoilers, mute it for 5 seconds. You find out that the main director of the facility is played by Sigourney Weaver. I felt that was a misplaced cast. Because Sigourney Weaver is only known for like one horror movie franchise, and it's not even like what they were parodying. I felt like Jamie Alexander. Was it Jamie Alexander? Jamie Lee Curtis.
So.
Which one is
Jamie
it?
Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis should have been that, if not, say, Bruce Campbell or Robert Englund. These core people of slasher films,
Of horror, yeah.
of horror slasher films, should have been that part, not Sigourney Weaver. She didn't fit. It really, for what the big love letter was, what made me really enjoy this movie, and why I totally, completely agree with Jess that this should be so up high on the list. Honestly, I thought this was going to be one of your top 2, Jess. Really, I really did.
It almost did. I just didn't want to follow it.
No, I thought it's fantastic. It just, that threw me out the most. This wasn't like Sigourney Weaver is your big payoff kind of like Easter egg.
But it is good how they, similar to Seven, how they kept Kevin Spacey hid. I'm spoiling now retroactively, but it's one of those good things where you keep those. Yeah, Seven's old as shit. It's good sometimes to keep those kind of actors under wraps because it leaves some sort of surprise for the film going through it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of whether Sigourney Weaver was someone who is really of the horror genre, it is cool to see her pop up without knowing that she's ever in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
Billy, take it with your 3.
Number three, my number 1 favorite movie of all time, but my number 3 favorite horror movie, which makes absolutely no sense. The Shining.
Did you say The Shining?
The Shining.
The Shinning.
The Shinin.
The Shinin.
atmospherically one of the best horror movies I have ever seen. I own 2 copies of it. Or 3 copies. I love the movie more than anything. Jack Nicholson, amazing. Shelley Duvall, fucking ugly, scary ass motherfucker in her own right. She's horrifying looking in that movie. She looks like a drowned rat.
Really?
Sorry, Shelley Duvall. But also, if you think about it, there's a lot of psychological stuff that went into the background of that movie. Bill, quit drinking every time I fucking talk about a movie, you asshole.
I listen
He
to
makes
you,
the
Billy.
best faces when he drinks.
I know, too. A lot of psychological horror behind the scenes in that movie, I think, that led to the movie being as good as it is. And yet again, I think a lot of the movies I like show a lot of good cultural mainstay. Here's Johnny, possibly one of the more famous improv lines in film history. The Little Pigs, Red Rum. There's a lot of good little elements. And the kid who plays Danny, I'm a firm believer that there are not a lot of good child actors out there. I don't think there are many. Huh?
Have you watched Stranger Things yet?
I have watched Stranger Things. No. But I mean, in the history of film, there are not a shit ton of good child actors.
It's a recent development.
Yes,
yeah, it kind of has been.
Yeah, so in the history of film, I think there's not a lot of crazy good child actors. And I think the kid who plays Danny plays the part very perfectly. Obviously, The Shining has been theorized to death. If you ever run across the documentary Room 237...
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, never mind. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I hate that documentary more than anything in the world because people are like, look, there's a giant penis because there's a there's a paper tray next to his crotch. I
didn't really think about those. For me, it just the fact that there were that it laid out, because I've sat in a room with you and a couple of other different people talking about the theories behind The Shining.
Yeah.
I've read the books. I know that I know the difference between the book and the movie. I know all these things, but the fact that it was
adaptation that Stephen King disowns that movie.
Yeah.
But they're separate elements.
Yep.
They're entirely separate elements and both equally excellent. And then if you move on to Dr. Sleep, Jesus fucking Christ, if they did a Dr. Sleep version of The Shining.
It's on my list to
with
read.
that canon.
And some of the most best named characters like Dick Halloran. You can't hate a character named Dick Halloran. Scary white girl twins.
I didn't like
bloody.
the movie.
You didn't?
Are they really titled Scary White Girl Twins?
No, that's what I just call them.
Oh, okay.
I didn't like the movie.
You know what? Here's the thing. I think the thing with The Shining is The Shining is.
Yeah, I read the book first. That was my problem. I read the book first, and that was my biggest beef. So I remember I read the book right before the TV movie came out.
Yes.
Oh my God! Then you would have to have been film. What in the actual fuck is going on here?
Yeah, I read the book, watched the movie, and then was like, "This is kind of shit compared to the book," because
Right.
And then I watched the TV movie, and I was like, this is more what I wanted.
Right.
But I can respect why people call this movie, amazing.
Right.
I know why.
What's the TV movie called?
The Shining.
The Shining. It's directed by Stephen King. He hated the adaptation done by Kubrick so much that he directed his own adaptation. And I think critically it wasn't received as well. But it's more faithful to the original text.
Yeah, and that's right.
And I agree with you, Bill. I think The Shining is a super divisive movie. I think people who watch it either like it or they don't like it.
No, and I'm not going to argue with anybody about it. It's like I just read the book first.
It's all funny, too. I think, for me, there's 2 different cuts of the film. There's the longer 2.5-hour cut, and there's a shorter 2-hour cut. I actually like the 2-hour cut a lot more. It's more concise. It's quicker. It's a long film. It's a long movie to try and sit through for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the anxiety that movie gave me the first few times watching it, I think is enough to make it horrific for me. And it's kind of the last of my old school movies on my list. So... my pick, whatever direction he is in relation to me, LB.
Middle.
So
you're that way.
Okay.
You're right here.
I'm right here. Sort of going off of what Bill was saying about Evil Dead Dead by Dawn being a descent into madness, Cemetery Man in '94.
That movie made me descend into madness.
That movie, what you have to understand is it's not necessarily the greatest movie in terms of quality.
I found it more goofy than anything else.
There's some goofiness to it, but it's about this character's descent into madness and perception of what is reality in a way, in that he is this pretty straight and narrow guy. He lives in a cemetery. Well, the dead come back to life every 7 days, and he has to kill them. And he's trying to explain this to the town people, like the mayor and stuff, and get help and say, hey, look, shit's going crazy in my cemetery. I need help here. And they're just like, yeah, just deal with it. You're the engineer. And he's like, I'm a fucking engineer. And he falls in love with this woman at her husband's funeral.
Oh, I was so right.
What? Go ahead.
The main character
Yeah.
is played by Rupert Everett,
Yeah.
Ron Weasley.
who is Claw from the Inspector
Dr.
Gadget movie.
Oh no, I thought Rupert.
No, not
Right,
Rupert
you're right.
Grint.
Not Rupert Grint. I forgot. No, Rupert Everett
Anyway.
was. What else was he? He was.
He was Oberon in
Yeah,
the Midsummer
Midsummer.
Night's Dream.
All right, sorry, Albie.
Yeah, sorry, Albie. I was trying to remember what I knew him from. I was like, is that Claw? Fuck, I can't take this serious. Sorry. Continue.
Anyways.
Anyway, he falls in
What's
love
your
with this
totally
woman.
serious review?
They bump uglies, and then her husband comes back to life, of course, or becomes a zombie, and attacks them, and she dies.
That's
And he's all broken up about it, so he sits and waits till she reanimates so he can kill her again. And then later in the movie, not much later, this is like an hour and a half movie, I think, and this is like 45 minutes in the movie, she comes back again. Which means the first time she came back, she wasn't really undead. He killed her. Right?
Oh shit.
Oh shit. So that's
Okay.
where it kind of begins for him, this descent into...
I'm interested now.
Yeah.
it's weird.
It's weird, but things get crazier from there.
It does.
And he meets this woman twice more in like she's two different people, same actress, but it's almost like she's been reincarnated at the same age.
It's weird.
It's weird. You gotta watch it. I don't know how much else to say about it. Cemetery Man.
All right, cool. I'll watch that. I'll watch that when I'm not in a horror movie feel. But it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued in the storyline. Pick
It's
your next
pretty
victim.
Pick who's next.
Who's left? Everyone's
Me.
no.
Birch?
Birch.
Birch?
I guess I'll pick Birch.
It's
I
Birch.
guess.
So this is a really new one. It's called Hush. And
I just watched it.
did you just watch it? It's good.
I watched it a couple weeks ago. It's really good.
I was like surprised. I was looking on lists of I was looking for new horror movies to watch, and
Yeah.
one specifically on Netflix, and this was near the top. So I watched it like 6-7 nights ago, and it's all about this girl. The main character is a girl who is deaf and mute, so she never speaks the entire movie, and she can't hear anything. So she communicates through reading lips. She communicates through sign language. And she has subtitles when she uses sign language, but she never speaks. And she lives out in this house by herself. She has like one friend who lives like down the way a little bit. And one night, she's a writer. And one night, this guy, just some guy in a mask, shows up and tries to kill her. And he realizes that she's deaf. And so he decides to fuck with her before he does it. So... not to give from there, it just goes through all kinds of different things happen. And it really is not like a slasher movie. It's more like a cat and mouse game between this killer who speaks to the not to the audience, but he talks, and he's the one who can communicate in a way that we understand, versus this girl and he cuts the power to the house so she can't. He takes her phone, like he sneaks into before he actually sneaks into the house. He stands behind her, and he takes her phone from the table, and then he leaves. instead of just killing her. And then he lets her know, like he takes pictures and he sends pictures to her laptop, like of pictures of her that he's taking with her phone to show that he has her phone. And that's how he alerts her that he's there.
So
Then he
messed
cuts
up.
Yeah, then he cuts the power in the house and taps on the window and is basically just like, "Hi, whenever I feel like it, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to kill you. So until then, we'll play some games." And she she takes this lipstick out and she writes on the door, like, I haven't seen your face. If you go away, I will not tell anyone. And he takes his mask off and he goes, "Oh, now you've seen my face. So now I can kill you." And it's not someone that she knows. It's just a guy. It's just some guy. And he's he's just an average looking motherfucker who's just going around. He's got a crossbow that he's like armed to the teeth.
Kill the other people. So
yeah. And then so she starts fighting back, and it is really, really good. There's a lot of moments that really surprised me. Like I thought it was done, and then nope, it's not. And it's really not even a long movie. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes. So it's a quick watch. If you haven't watched it yet, you should. It's good.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is that everybody?
I think so.
That is everybody for the 7 through 3.
All right, we're going to take a real quick break, and then we're going to get to our top 2. And then we're going to cut it down to 31. And, yeah, so we'll be right back.
I was working in the lab late one night, and my eyes beheld an eerie sight. And my monster
You
from
did to
his
yourself.
bag began to rise.
How was I not the one to laugh for the
To
first
my
time?
surprise,
What happened?
I don't know.
Monster Man.
The Monster Mash.
I hate us.
We did the Nash.
Hi, everybody. Did you miss us?
Hi.
Because we missed
No. We didn't
Right.
miss you. Bill's lying. He's full of shit.
Been 15.
you. Look, I'm not drinking straight gin anymore.
Because
Yeah,
you drank all of it.
No, it's
The
still,
dude abides.
It's still right here.
Oh, okay.
I think I mixed it
What?
wrong, though. So, we're doing our top 2s now. These films cannot be eliminated off the list. These are our personal favorite horror movies of all time. Full stop. Therefore, making them the greatest film ever. Deal with it, internet. We all tried to watch them. It was hard for us to do. LB didn't watch shit. He didn't even watch his own list.
Especially
like
since
6
we
years
decided
ago.
to do this like 4 days ago.
Yeah, it was quite grueling to watch all of these horror films. So, who wants to start? Who's going to take this bullet?
Let me get my shit one out of the way.
Are we doing 2 and then we're doing 1, or are we doing 2-1?
We're doing 2 and then number 1.
Okay, I'll
So
start.
I'll
LB.
do 2.
LB, what is your number
Where's
2?
LB gonna start? Thank you.
I'm gonna go with and I'm having regrets about putting this film as my number 2. 'cause
You should have.
Billy's made me feel really bad about it.
No, you know what? You know what? Guess what?
What?
Yours isn't up for elimination. His is.
You're
Yes, it is.
But I'm not gonna do that to him
Ah,
unless he does it to me.
Might.
All right.
there are merits to it.
Anyways.
So my number 2 is Let Me In, which is the American remake of Let the Right One In. I have not seen the original.
It should
So
be on your
therefore,
list. It is on
it-
Netflix.
I am going to watch it. I haven't seen it yet, so that might be why I have such a high opinion of the remake.
Yeah.
And basically, for a lot of the same reasons, Billy like Let the Right One In. Although I think it's a little more graphic, I
Yes.
believe.
Mhm.
Okay. Having not seen the original, I can compare them. But
Yeah.
one of my favorite things about the movie is sort of this mystery in the film about who this older guy is, who seems to be in control of this young girl. He's very controlling. There's a word. There's a good synonym.
You mean the guy in control is controlling? Well,
Yeah.
Controlling.
And you find out later that it's very much the opposite. That he's basically working for her because she's a vampire and he is sort of her stooge.
Was
LB,
it
I
her
will
brother?
What? No,
No?
I don't want to spoil it, but I'm going to
No,
spoil
we're
it.
in full spoilers. This is a
Okay.
full spoiler section.
mode.
So basically, you could almost see him as he is the main the male character that the young boy character decades ago. He fell into the same thing where he met this girl, sort of maybe fell for her, either way they developed a great friendship, and he's been with her since then, doing her bidding essentially, and basically gave up his own life to take care of her and make sure that she has access to what she needs to survive.
Blood.
Blood.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that's one of the things that makes the movie great, is that at the end, you know that the boy, I can't remember his name, the main character, the boy, is sort of allowing himself to follow in the same path.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
In LB's defense, I will say I think the remake has its own merits in which it is good. The vampire girl is played by Chloe Grace
Moretz, yeah.
Moretz, yeah,
Yeah.
who was a hit girl in Kick-Ass, and she did a couple other films. She's not the best actress, but I think she holds her own. She's really not, but I think she holds her own in the movie.
Owen. The kid's name is Owen.
Yes, Owen. I won't rip the movie. It's just comparatively looking at the original. The newer version is more focused than the original movie, to be honest. The original movie winds off into a couple of the book plots that it never wraps up. And book plots that don't make sense. So I'm not gonna rip on Let Me In as hard as I possibly could.
Just based off of like
Bill, what did you just read?
No, this is a cool thing. Owen's mother in Let Me In is played by I don't have her name, but she Cara Buono, I don't remember, but she plays Karen Wheeler, the mother of the main character from Stranger Things.
Yes.
I did not know that. So
I have a question, Billy. You're familiar with the book, and maybe you haven't read it, but you're familiar with it.
Yes.
And you know the thing about the vampire character.
What that they cut?
Is that in the original movie?
How about you
Okay, so what LB's talking about is this is the thing that gets a lot of people confused, especially on the original, because they actually spend a weird amount of time on it in the original. The vampire who is a girl is implied to at one time have been a boy and had been forcibly castrated. And in the original movie, when you watch it, it's gonna freak you the fuck out, because there's a moment where they both look at each other, and you get a really quick glimpse of scarred area, and then it's like that, like it's almost subliminal. But then they never mention it again. They never talk about it again.
Weird.
And it's one of those things.
And they left that out.
Oh, and they left that
the
in the
American
original
version.
movie.
Well, in the American version, there is the line where she says, "I'm not a girl,"
Not a girl,
which is
right.
implied to be, because she's a monster, she's a vampire.
No,
but
she's
there's
a
that other.
vampire,
They
but
never
no,
explicitly say it in the old movie. They literally show a shot of mutilated.
that is literally
genital.
like a moment
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
watching Let Me In and not knowing anything about.
And to be honest about the remake versus the original LB, I think the relationship between the kids feels more honest than in the remake. Not that it's bad in the remake, but it feels like more of a genuine. It feels like the movie focuses more on the relationship than it does on the bloody elements of.
Like,
but that's the difference, I think, between American and foreign horror films as a whole.
right.
They focus on elements.
And that's, I mean, like, cause I watched Let Me In, and it just, to me, didn't read like a horror movie because it focused so much on that relationship. It's like, we're building this relationship, but also she's a vampire. Things are complicated, and I don't know if that's like modern day culture kind of thing, where the emphasis on the fact that she's a vampire is just lackluster.
Yeah. LB,
whole.
When you watch the original LB, message me and we'll have a conversation about the differences, because they're both drastically different movies for being a remake of the movie.
Nope, fuck it. We're going to do a video of it.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. Let's do it. Everyone watch it. Let's do it.
No, it's going to be you and LB, and you're going to discuss pros, cons of the original and the remake.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Done.
I'm down.
All right, Jess.
Me.
Yes. You're number 2.
My number 2, and I don't know if any of you guys actually watched this other than Billy. And Billy said it was hard to get through. My number 2 is super unconventional, and I don't think it gets enough notice for what it is. It is called The Nightmare. And
Documentary, right?
It's a documentary. It is on Netflix. It's a documentary that talks about night terrors. if you're a person who has ever had night terrors or believes in alien abductions or demon possession or haunted houses, this will drive it home. Like, it is, and like for me, like, this is the only movie for as long as I can remember that has given me nightmares. I tried rewatching it the other night, like before bedtime, and I had to turn it off.
Fun Fact Friday, directed by the same guy who directed the Room 237 documentary.
Really?
Oh.
Yes.
That's pretty fascinating.
Yep.
It's a documentary. It's not absolutely terrifying. The terrifying part for me is the visualizations that they give. They have a bunch of interviews based on people's different experiences and what they different things, and they have theories. Like, and what's scary is that is the parallels between people who have night terrors and people who have feel like they've experienced alien abductions, or people who have had like hauntings in their houses and everything, and how parallel they are to each other. And there's so much emphasis on the other and everything that happens outside, like everything as a whole, and you don't really have any solidification, but they have these images in it. And the images is like, because for me, growing up, living in haunted houses, believing in ghosts, the image of the dark, shadowy man in the corner has always been like a common terror for me. And that is an image that is repeated in these stories, in the imagery and everything like that. And it's, I don't know anybody else who's watched it willingly.
I'm reading an interview right now. There's an interview online where this guy says he has tried watching it 4 times and he's never finished it.
I meant to watch it.
And Billy did bring a good point. Like because I messaged Billy because he's the only person that said that he watched it out of the group, and I said, "Hey, what'd you think?" And he said that the storyline ran thin real fast. And then I realized afterwards I watched it in 2 parts.
Yeah, I think the biggest part for me was trying to consume it all in one go. I also think that the personal connection to it makes it scarier. I have never experienced night terrors. I have never experienced sleep paralysis, which is a lot of what they talk about in that movie, which I think might also be part of your reason for loving Insidious so much, because Insidious has a lot to do with sleep paralysis. And they even mentioned that in that movie. My problem specifically with the movie was finding that it's documentary, but there's also scary parts that are filmed, and I wish it would have committed to either or more than the other. I wish it would have either been more about being scary and being a scary imagery thing, and then the documentary is something that was peppered in there, or it was more about being a documentary with some scary stuff peppered in there. It felt like it was trying to go 2 different ways at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I think some of the images are really... I wish they would have invested more in the scary images, because I feel like some of it is really cheaply done. Doing some read through, like the guys who are the shadow men are literally guys in black morph suits. Yeah. And I think it could have been done with maybe some slight special effects, could have been made a little more realistic. And but I think that's a movie that personal connection can make it 10 times scarier.
Absolutely.
For someone who is experiencing it and looking at it and saying, "Oh my God, I know exactly what these people are feeling, and I can mirror that feeling to the T." I just can't, and I think that's why it didn't click with me.
And that's totally. I mean, like, I sat here and I talked with my boyfriend. He's like, "You got to put The Nightmare on the list." I was like, "It's my number 2," and like, because he's gone, and again, because he's gone through this sleep paralysis and whatnot. I've had so many conversations with friends like that have dealt with like that kind of situation and the dark shadowy figure and whatnot, that hearing so many people, and I think you're absolutely right, the personal identification with the story has a lot to drive with how you feel about the movie, because if you've never experienced that, you're like, okay, this is just a bunch of people's stories. But if you have, you're like, holy fucking shit, all of these people have experienced this exact same thing that I have. Yeah. And Like,
For
here's
real.
an image that will reawaken like your darkest fears, and then you'll
Yep.
be thinking about what's happening in the corner of your room for the rest of your days,
Mm.
and can't watch it at like 9:30 at night. Like, so
It's also a movie that should probably be ingested in 2 parts. You
yes.
should watch the first half of it and then take a day or two and then watch the second half of it.
Find a stopping point.
Or it should have
because
been
it
about
is-
a
I mean,
half hour shorter.
it's
It should have been a half hour shorter.
It's a documentary. Like, and a lot of documentary, if they have a satirical background, then you can watch them all the way through. If they're high conspiracy, you can watch them all the way through. But like, if it's a storytelling documentary, a lot of
Yep.
the times you have to watch it in 2 parts. And if you're a fan of documentaries, like, you know that as a human, we weren't really allowed time for that.
I'm super bummed that I didn't watch this beforehand. I really wanted to.
You still can.
I'm going to. Like, I wanted to watch it last night, but then things came up, and I wanted it to be the last movie I watched before this, because when I read the concept, I thought it would be very interesting and stand out. So
Yeah.
I after this video, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to talk to you about it, Jess, because I think
Yeah.
this is.
Hey,
I think it's a very
include
cool
me on that message. I want to hear what you talk
Yeah,
about.
no, it sounds very cool, and I think this is a probably like we're hitting a very difficult section of our top 2s where people are going to start possibly disagreeing with one another, but I believe that's a good thing,
Yes.
Right.
because these movies hit personal tones with us.
Right.
Like, you know, someone who's experienced the remake first, a la LB, seeing this story untold in a way, it you know, it's with him. This is a very personal thing for Jess. It resonates in you. It's something. I think the conflict here is good,
Yeah.
and I actually
It's
can't wait
good.
to watch it. I put it on my actual watch list in front of like rewatch these movies kind of thing. You know,
Serious side note, movies wouldn't be great if we couldn't sit here and debate them with each other and why we like them and why we don't like them.
Absolutely.
So,
Jess, pick somebody.
I pick Bill.
Okay, so my top 2 are really like part 1 of 1 and part 2 of 1. It's really it depends on which day it is, which one I like more.
yep.
But I have to go with John Carpenter's 1982 The Thing, a remake of The Thing came from outer space. This movie, I am ashamed to say I came in very late to the game. It was my freshman year in college. A good friend of mine handed me the DVD. I sat down and watched it when all of my roommates were out of my dorm. I sat in a corner with a laptop and I watched it. And this movie is pure paranoia. It is terrifyingly paranoia. I stopped it halfway through and turned on all the lights in my dorm room, looked in all the corners because I was afraid something was going to eat me. All right? And that's what I love about it, is that the whole thing is paranoia. It's the idea is that this creature from another planet lands in Antarctica millions and millions of years ago. Some scientists dug it up, took over their base. We find out that their base was burnt to the ground, turned into a dog, and that's where the movie starts, with these people chasing this dog. Ends up in an American base, and they take the dog in because they're like, what the fuck's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. And then you find out that it's a monster, and it starts assimilating all the other dogs, and then they go, oh fuck, and they kill it. They think they killed it, and they go, well, this person was with the dog longer, you could be it. And then it becomes this huge, like, who's who, who's what. And the one thing I love about the most about this movie is that there's John Carpenter and Kurt Russell both say they don't know who is the thing and who isn't the thing in certain parts of the movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, apparently I read these new articles where it say that they purposely filmed parts of the movie with like this shine in people's light. Like they shined light in their eyes to give this a reflecting thing to say it's the human soul. And the creatures don't have it, and they have dead eyes. And when you start piecing together who could be it and who couldn't be it, also this movie stars Wilford Brimley, diabetes, and he's awesome in this movie. Like,
Yes.
he plays super paranoid, and again, these top 2 films are from 82 and 79. Spoilers for anybody who knows what horror movie came out in 79. But the thing is, the special effects minus one scene per movie hold up
Yep.
so fucking well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The dog scene, full spoilers, the defibrillator scene is like, that's a jump scare, but this is when you realize that a jump scare is done really, really well when
Right.
one character has a heart attack and they go to save him, and all of a sudden his chest cavity opens up and there's just fucking teeth. And then when the head comes off and grows spider legs and starts to walk away, and you point at that and go, that is an actual prop.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. This was my first time ever watching it when I watched it this week. And I
how did you
very
feel
much,
about it?
Loved it. It feels somewhat like a whodunit. It almost kind of feels like Clue with deadly aliens. Fun fact Friday, my first experience with the thing was playing the fucking game on PS2 because I got it free with my PS2 when I bought it.
I
I had
Yeah,
no
man.
clue,
I
I
have
had
it on
no clue
Xbox.
what it was.
Yeah.
The movie is it like you said, all scenes. Older movies like that sometimes have a hard time staying relevant in terms of horror. I think that movie, along with things like The Shining, do a really good job prop-wise and work-wise of staying relevant. And watching that movie, you really can't tell. It could have been made 5-6 years ago, and no one could really argue any differently.
Oh well, and they did remake it
They
5 or 6 years
made
ago.
a prequel to it that happened in the Swedish base. And what breaks my heart is if you look at any behind the scenes thing, I'm going to look up his name real quick. Actually, LB, can you look it up for me real quick? His name is Todd something. He was the guy in the suit of the Alien in Alien 3. He actually owns the special effect company that they were hired to do all the special effects for the prequel. And they made all the physical special effects for the prequel, except when they presented it to him, they're like, this is the suit. They found reasons to use CG. And that's kind of the reason why the prequel doesn't hold up as well. And the prequel doesn't ruin the original. It kind of
own the prequel.
The prequel's monster is actually like pretty okay for.
It just relies too heavily on CG.
Right. For a CG monster, it actually is okay.
Bill, what you said is the thing that makes the movie great is you look at a prop and you're like, that's a fucking prop. Yeah. That's a real, like, I could hold that prop in my hands.
Someone crafted that.
Like, things like I think it's the Blake monster, which is the spider skull. That thing is fucking freaky as shit. Like the dog, like, I don't know what you want to call it, the tumor dog or whatever the hell it is. That thing it like haunts my brain, you know? Yeah. It's just scary, and that's what really holds up is that it's real. It's more about not the gore, even though it is kind of gory, but more of what is and who isn't the thing. And there's only like, other than like the big, his name is Tom Woodruff Jr.
Yes.
That guy is awesome. He's friends with me on Facebook, so mad shout outs to you. I'm gonna link him. I'm gonna link him in this. Tag him in this. I'm fucking gonna.
There you go.
Sponsor us.
He it breaks my heart when you watch behind the scenes for that, because he was like, we made this awesome suit, and they show you the awesome suit, and you go, that'd be fucking sweet. But like the original Thing, well, not the original Thing, but John Carpenter's The Thing. Like I said, this is really neck and neck with number one for me, because this movie is slow enough burn, keeps you mysterious in the dark, and like, since they're in the middle of a snowstorm, you can't go anywhere.
Right. It's very much, and knowing you for years, Bill, it's a very Bill movie. Yeah,
it's a slow enough burn.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just recently, because I had seen the prequel first.
I'm sorry.
And I didn't realize that it was a prequel.
How did that play out, Jess? How did that play out? Because I wouldn't know how that works. Is it okay?
I mean, it was all right. Like, I mean, it was very different, and I feel like having watched the prequel first gave me a deeper appreciation for John Carpenter's The Thing, because like you're looking at things like how they, again, like touching on how they achieve their monsters in the CG versus the actual physical props of like old school horror, and being somebody like myself who's very technically savvy and artistically interested in it. I really liked it, and I saw a lot of and a big thing. I'm a big fan of like the older movie soundtracks, and their build up and like their audio backing for these horror movies, and that's like a lot of like you'll see with a couple of these, and I feel like almost everybody's at least one of everybody's top two is like this.
Yeah.
And like where you could tell that their soundtrack tells a story, and I feel like it was that way with the Thing.
Yeah.
And like it was good. It was old, so it's standalone from like what you could compare it to now.
Yeah.
But
and I don't.
It was all paranoia, and that's a part that everybody can identify with.
Yeah, it's not that like I don't think the prequel would ever ruin the original, because it's like you knew right off the bat there was something wrong with this dog. You knew immediately that dog isn't what you think it is.
Why these fuckers shooting this dog?
Yeah, it's like it was clear enough, so that didn't ruin anything, you know. And
you know what's fucked up? When I watched it, I read it as that was their dog.
Yeah.
Like because of the way that the dog greeted them and everything like that. That's the way that
yeah.
I acknowledged it. So to hear that this is the dog from another camp,
yeah.
and then it actually carried like I would say contagion
whatever
over there, that makes it like totally fucking different.
Well, and here's another thing. Like you would say, if you really dived into it, you could say that this movie doesn't explain the rules well enough of the creature. And I'm kind of shocked, Bill. LB, you need to speak up more because didn't you take a John Carpenter class? No,
I took a horror films class.
Okay, was this shown?
But
this is like right up your alley of classic.
Yes. Oh, I love this movie.
Some people would say like it's not explained on how people can become the Thing. It's never really shown. But the definition they give for the blood test is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they explain how to kill it, how to find it, and I think that's enough for this movie to work.
I talk a lot with my theater students about my problem with modern day movie watchers. My problem with modern day movie watchers is they want everything explained to them, and they need to know how everything happens, how every character gets to where they need to. And I think
they have to think about it too much, they get upset about it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of good movies, I think right off the top of my head, I think of movies like Inception that end on a really open note. The Shining ends on a very open note where you can argue for hours on how that movie actually ends and what the ending actually means in the scope of the film. The Thing doesn't feel like it owes you any explanation because the characters don't have any explanation.
No.
Right.
The characters don't know why. So why should we be, third person omniscient and know all reasons why?
Yeah, and I'm gonna drop this on you because the ending is open, very open. I wanted to know what people thought of it. Birch, did you actually watch this film?
I haven't got to, no.
No, okay. Well, full on spoilers here, so you can turn off your headphones if you want. LB, ending of the film. What did you think? What did you think the explanation was?
Explanation
McCready and Childs are sitting out in the destruction of the base, and they ask, what should we do next? And McCready says, maybe we should just sit here for a while and wait it out. Do you think one of them's the Thing, or do you think it's just them not trusting each other and willing to die? And if so, if you think someone of them was the Thing, who?
Well, here's the thing.
But
Kill me now.
I'm gonna drink some gin for that one.
I feel like, given what we had seen the Thing was capable of doing, I feel like if one of them was the Thing, it would have killed the other
assimilated,
one. Yeah. So the way I see it is neither of them is the Thing, and that their paranoia is gonna basically destroy them, one or the other, or both of them.
I agree with LB.
Jess?
I thought the way that I took it was, and I'm trying to recall, but I think didn't McCready just encountered the Thing right beforehand?
Yeah, McCready blew up the Wilford Brimley, the Thing, which is the worst part of the movie because they used blue screen and it was really big, and it was clearly a miniature, but also has one of the greatest lines in movie history of, "Yeah, fuck you too."
Yeah.
the way that I interpreted the end of the movie was McCready was taken over by the Thing, and that's why he suggested that they just sit there and wait it out, because he knew that his body, him
freeze.
as the Thing, would freeze, and then they would find him.
Which
And
fun fact, that's what the game says is what happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
oh, really?
Yeah. I like to believe what LB and Billy
Yeah.
think. Just because I'm not saying that's wrong. I love that. I do love every possible outcome for this ending. I do. Because it adds so much more to the movie no matter how you look at it. It's like trying to answer questions of the like what's real and what's not in The Usual Suspects. It doesn't matter what your answer is. It always adds to the movie. That's what really makes this movie well for me. It's like thinking, oh, that one moment we lost track of McCready, he got taken over by the Thing. That's great. Oh my God, I want to rewatch the ending scene and figure that out right now.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, and this is something that I really love about this movie and movies that are based like in the Arctic area. You can't tell time.
No.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you don't know how long McCready was down there.
No.
You don't know at what point in time he regrouped. You don't know how long this process took. There's no and especially with paranoia, the concept of paranoia weighing so heavily on it that you just don't know. You don't know how long it took. You don't know like what the process is. You don't know if this has been a day or if this has been several days. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah. Though I like to believe that neither of them are the Thing, and that their stupidity and paranoia is what kills them. Here are some interesting facts. This is kind of cool. One, I told you how the light is shined in people's eyes to show that they have a soul.
Yeah.
It's done in the final scene with McCready, not Childs.
Yeah.
Two, because someone brought this theory up to me, and I was like kind of mind blown. They
And
said,
it showed that McCready had a soul?
yeah. That's.
All right.
I was like, okay, I didn't know about this. Like, I haven't rewatched it since, but I did rewatch the ending scene, and somebody said, "Well, I wondered about the breaths," and I go, "What's the breath theory?" If you rewatch the ending scene with Childs and McCready, it shows McCready breathing heavily, and you can see his breath in the air because it's so cold. Not until halfway through the final scene do you see Child's breath.
Yeah.
That he's just going through the motion. And I go, what?
Yeah.
That's like minor detail that you could say is a film fuck up or master plan. Who knows? That's what I love about John Carpenter's The Thing. Because even when you find out who, because I'm not going to ruin it for Birch here or anybody else, when you find out who had the thing the longest after the blood test, if you rewatch it, there are hints all over the movie.
All over the place, yeah.
And it's very subtle stuff, and that's what I love about this movie. So, skipping to number 2, we've done everyone except Birch.
We still need Chris and...
Just Birch.
Chris and me.
Yeah.
Chris and
We
Billy.
did Billy?
Yeah.
So,
No, we
Birch.
didn't.
We didn't get Billy's either, right?
No,
Chris
we
and
didn't.
me are left.
So, Birch, go.
Okay.
My number 2 is kind of speaking of nightmares. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Can I say
What?
I told you, I called you on this, and I was like, this pick shocked me.
Yeah, it
In the
shocked me too.
In the sense of, I did not expect you, of all people here, to pick a movie from this series, let alone this movie. And I was actually, I was really excited about that too, because I was like, this is like a dive into Chris Birch's brain. This is interesting.
Welcome.
No,
It's weird and
I'm
inconsistent.
excited to hear what you say about this movie. I really am.
So, quick, real brief history lesson on this movie. Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one came out, and it was a big hit. I think a lot of people seem to like it.
It was unique.
And it was unique. It was scary. Wes Craven, who is one of my favorite filmmakers, really successful. So then Wes Craven, I don't know if you know this, but Wes Craven doesn't like to do that thing in horror movies where they leave it open, like super open-ended for a sequel.
Yeah.
Like he likes to
finality.
Exactly. He likes to finish the story. He's like, let's not assume that we're going to make a sequel or millions of sequels. Let's just finish the story, and then if something else comes along, there's a good enough idea, we can keep going. So he kind of puts a topper at the end of the first one, the studio has dollar signs in their eyes, so they made Nightmare Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, which is a shit movie. And so Wes Craven is like, okay, guys, you're not ruining my fucking character. So he made this movie. And this was the last movie he made in the series until New Nightmare, which was way past the awfulness that was like 5 and 6. But Dream Warriors, it kind of pretended 2 didn't happen. And I love this movie because it's funny. It's never really scary necessarily, but I always have a good time watching this movie. Like Freddy Krueger is at this point where he's still pretty scary, but he's not like, he's funny. He has like his bits that he says, but he's not like super like stupid funny, kind of like, or trying to be funny anyway, like in the like way in the few movies up to this. I think the biggest joke he makes is when he's like, "It's welcome to prime time, bitch," and he shoves this girl's head into a TV. Like,
yeah,
things like that. It's stupid. It's like kind of like roll your eyes, but it's not enough to be like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. And I love the idea of they brought back the main character from the first one, Nancy, who is, she encounters all this group of, the whole premise, you know, there's these kids in this mental ward, and they all have the same, like, they're all really quirky and interesting characters. They're all pretty well-rounded characters. They're all very different, and all of them are being attacked by Freddy, and none of them know why. They're like, we don't know who this guy is, but he's in our dreams, and no one believes us. And Nancy shows up and is like, hey, I know no one's believing you, but I know why this is happening, and I can help you. And then you have, like, the idea of, like I said before, I like heroes who can fight back. And Bill, you said this too. When like heroes have a chance, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And then you have people like
Kincaid who busts through like the Kool-Aid man.
My favorite part in this fucking movie is when all of them decide, hey, we can fight back in our dreams and we can be whatever we want in our dreams. Because I always thought in the first few movies, I was like, yo, you guys are fucking dreaming. You can do whatever you want in your dreams. You don't have to let this guy slice you up.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I hate you,
deep shit right there.
I hate me too.
No, but like,
and all of them, it becomes kind of stupidly funny, but also like they're kids. It's like, of course you have Kincaid who's like, I'm gonna have just all these muscles and bust through walls. And then you have the nerd kid who's like, I'm a wizard, and he has like a giant green cape. He's like, I'm a sorcerer because I play Dungeons and Dragons. Or the one chick who's like, I just have a lot of knives. I guess is her superpower. But and then they all like tag team Freddy, and then he basically kills them anyway. But they fight him, and it's cool. And they have a kick-ass soundtrack. The final song and the song that plays during the credits, "Dream Warriors" by Dokken, is kick-ass. I just enjoy the fuck out of it. It was before like Nightmare got stupid and weird, and was also like it was in like the good phase. And
this was the good version of schlock. Like it's not a high horror, but it does it really, really well. And nothing will beat how disturbing the puppet scene is.
The puppet kill is the creepiest kill in the movie.
And that's the thing. Like schlock isn't a bad term, but like when it's overdone, a la every other Nightmare movie, it's bad. But this movie was like the prime of its schlock, you know. So.
I want to say thank you for having this in your top 2 and letting me watch this because I haven't watched it before and I loved it. Like I didn't love it in the sense of a horror movie. I loved it in the sense of a story. Like, and I again, like you said, the whole concept of like we're gonna take back our dreams and we can do whatever we want in our dreams, and I'm like, yeah, buddy, me too.
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne was in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh god.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Chris sounded really excited about that. Oh yeah.
I forgot about Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
Oh god, I'm rewatching all the kills right now because again, my main problem with all the Friday the Nightmare movies is that they all blur together after a point, and I was having a hard time remembering who the fuck is who. You know.
So I've only seen the first one and New Nightmare.
New Nightmare was weird.
Jason X.
It's bizarre, but it's Jason X is
Jason
not
X,
the same
okay.
series. Billy.
I don't.
Is that Jason in space?
Yes,
That's Jason in space. And then Jason rides the black guy down to New Earth.
Yeah.
Who? What do we got still? We still got
Billy.
a Billy.
Billy, yep.
Billy.
Yes. My number two. So it's really funny as I think my top two are drastically different than my 7 through 3.
Yeah, they are.
They are like
100%.
they are 100% opposite, and maybe my roommate. I shared my roommate's a big horror fan. Shout out to my roommate Dave. But he said that my top two are a little recent nostalgia or like recent bias, and maybe I slightly agree. But my number two is the movie It Follows, which came out just within the last few years. I think it came out in 2014.
Yep.
The first thing that freaks me out about that movie is it was actually filmed within about 20 minutes of where I currently live.
Billy, have I ever told you this? Fun fact is that I was offered an audition for that movie.
You've told me about this, and I think that's so cool. And the fact that I think, first of all, Michigan needs more opportunity for film. I think Michigan has a good opportunity for film.
Where was it filmed?
Sterling Heights, Clawson,
Really?
and Detroit. It's filmed in parts.
I wanted to go. They were gonna have me read for the guy who gives her the thing in the first place.
Oh, you
Right.
were gonna be him?
You
You would have been a dickbag.
Yeah. The movie.
But you know, college.
College kept me away from that. So
I think the movie. First of all, if you haven't seen the movie, I was reading a review of it today that cracked me up because she is literally given an STD, a sexually transmitted demon,
Yeah.
in which this demon will walk consistently towards her. It'll walk a straight line for her, and when it gets to her, it will kill her, and is transmitted through having sex with an individual.
And it can be passed on.
It can be passed on. You can pass on to someone, and the guy in the beginning of the movie sleeps with her and passes it on to her because he doesn't want to obviously have to deal with this fucking demon trying to murder him. The one thing that I like is the fact that no one else can see the demon besides the person who is possessed by it, which gives an element of horror because there are certain times where we as an audience don't see the demon coming for said character, especially before the main character is infected. The other good thing I like about the movie is it totally avoids jump scares, except for the one scene that I can point out when they're at the beach house, and there's the jump scare in the door when the door gets blasted open. But the thing I love about that jump scare is the second that you think that jump scare would happen, they literally wait about 5 seconds, and then the jump scare happens, which is so well done, in that you're like, oh shit, here it comes. It didn't happen.
Maybe it
oh
didn't
my
happen.
god!
Oh, yeah.
All right. As soon as you let your guard down.
And one of the big things I like about that movie is the idea that the demon will walk straight for her. On my third rewatch of that movie, I rewatched it for obviously to come and talk about it again. A lot of the background shots, a lot of the people in the background of the movie are actually walking directly towards the camera.
Yeah.
And so it sets this kind of thing where you spend more time sometimes looking at what is occurring in the background as opposed to what is actually happening in the movie.
Especially your second time around.
Well, even my first time around, I started noticing that without noticing that. It was very well shot. It was subconsciously telling me, look in the background, Bill. And I went, oh.
Yeah.
And
oh, shit.
I like
Look at this person in the distance on the beach that's walking up behind her that nobody else is noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like...
And it does a good job, I think, of it brings kind of this modern... Bill called me and talked about this with me randomly, but it does have a very 70s feel to it. It is kind of an homage to the feeling of 70s movies, while still being firmly planted in mid-2010s with cell phones and technology. But then for some reason, sometimes it openly forgets about technology, which obviously it's kind of a big plot hole. Something that I actually didn't notice until you brought it up to me, Bill.
Oh, God.
But because I think I didn't care enough about that. I don't think that was an element of the movie that was that important to me, that I really needed to look into the technology of it. And maybe that's a slight oversight. Maybe
that, like,
are you revealing something?
Well, the movie is technically, the directors have explicitly said it's an homage to 70s horror.
And like,
Okay.
that was one of the things that, like, I really, first thing I'm gonna say, I had a lot of tiny problems with this movie.
Yes.
A lot of tiny little pieces that kind of bugged me, that threw me out, but I really, really, really liked this movie. This was a really good modern horror film. There were set rules. It followed it, even though the rules got muddied at time to time.
It followed it.
Didn't mean to do that. But there was a bunch of little things that started piling up for me.
Yeah.
Where it was like, okay, so the first scene, girl runs away from something that we can't see. She calls her dad on the cell phone. Okay, so this is modern day. The next piece of technology we see is her name is Yara.
Yeah.
Reading a book on this fucking ridiculously dumb seashell e-reader that is the most unbelievable way to read a book ever.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so we're clearly in modern day, and then like they still show them using landlines. It's like,
Right.
okay, so they're in college. Why are they using landlines? And then
Right.
on top of that, like everyone's driving a beater, also everyone's watching really shitty 50s sci-fi
50s
films.
sci-fi films,
And I'm
yeah.
What is this? Is this what millennials do nowadays? Because I didn't get that memo.
Right. I think it definitively didn't understand what time period it wanted to do. It wanted to do an homage to the 70s, but then it still wanted to be culturally relevant to the time, but then it also still wanted to be a 70s film, but then it also still wanted cell phones. Like, it was jumping
like,
back and forth.
Other
Yeah.
than that first scene, cell phones were never used. Ever
Right.
again. And you could really have just really rewritten I'm reading it on the e-reader and she has
Well,
a book.
But so,
Still, like, I mean, it's just the creative director was confused.
Yeah.
right. But and
Like-
I think that's I think if you look at it overall, though, and I, like I said, I don't think I ever really picked up on that because that wasn't what I was worried about in terms of the film. The scene that really gets me in that movie is when they're on the fucking date in the movie theater and they're
That
playing
is
the
a
game.
great scene.
And they're playing the game. Imagine what it's like to be this person.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that he picks the little kid. I think that's hilarious.
Oh,
Like, I
I
can
was
do
gonna-
whatever I want. I can shit in my pants. But then when they're in the theater and she picks someone and he goes, that girl in the yellow dress. And she goes,
What
where's
girl?
the girl in the yellow dress?
We have to
And
go.
you're immediately, every siren's like, something's not right. Something's wrong. You need to get out of there.
There's a point
Right.
though where the movie kind of started to fall apart for me. Again, small parts.
Yep,
Is when they're at the beach and the thing grabs
Yeah.
Jay, and you see that it actually has
Has
a
her
relevant,
hair.
like it picks up her hair, it takes out Paul, the best friend, and like it can actually interact with things. I mean, it makes sense, yes, but it bothered me.
Right. Well, I think that's one of the things that I think the movie breaking its own rules or breaking rules that it hasn't established.
Right. I
And
think that latter one is probably the more relevant.
Speaking of which, there's parts where they don't do a good job of telling us how much time has passed at
Right.
parts where
Right.
if it's always walking, if they traveled 2 hours north, should take like close to a week to get there, but they're at the lake house for like what feels like 20 minutes.
Right.
Or the part where it's always walking and they do this really cool creepy shot of them pulling out and it's magically on her roof. Why the fuck would it be up there?
Right. And there's some weird rules that they never
They can't
established
walk
that
up there.
that are broken.
Yeah.
And I think I want to say I kind of want to attribute it to that feeling of that 70s horror.
And
Where I don't think 70s horror really had that many rules to it.
yeah, but this one did, and like again, I'm just gonna shoot off some of the things that bothered me, but I really liked this movie. This isn't
Oh,
something
yeah.
that should be taken away. But like, he's Hugh. I think his name's Hugh, but his real name's John, right?
Yeah.
Chris Birch of this movie
Yes.
says that it can be anyone. It could be someone you don't know. It could be somebody you know. I really feel that it's really cruel when it's someone you love. But then throughout the whole rest of the fucking film, minus one scene, It's like a disfigured person, an old lady in a nightgown, a naked woman, a naked man. These really, really easy to spot. That doesn't fit in the situation.
Yeah.
And it bothered me that it was like that, because one of the greatest scenes is when they run back into John/Hugh. They're sitting in the yard, and he literally starts freaking out when a girl with a soccer ball starts walking near him and goes, "Can everyone see that girl?" And he's scared to shit. And everyone
And they're
goes,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
And you're like, why isn't that more of the movie, where it is literally a Where's Waldo of, is that person walking towards the camera, where we start to become paranoid for
playing more on the paranoia that we just discussed, that we
why
established.
don't they start using more of their friends too?
Yeah,
why doesn't Demon start using the images of friends?
That's the other thing. Like,
aside from the one time,
besides the neighbor and Paul, the sister and Yara could be cut from this movie because they don't do a fucking thing. They don't do a goddamn thing in the movie at all. And they could be cut strictly because they don't do anything. That bothered me. Another thing that bothered me is at the end of the movie, when it's the final version of it and they're in the pool, they don't tell. She says, well, the sister goes, what does it look like? I don't want to tell you. And I'm like, ooh, it's going to be something really disturbing, or something like the mom that we've never seen before. But since we never saw the mom, 1, we never saw a family photo, 2, it's just this random guy. And it's not until like 10 minutes, 15 minutes later that you realize, oh, it's her dad.
Yeah.
And you're just like, and even then, that's a big fucking stretch, because you only see the family photo for like a minute, and you had this big confrontation. On top of that, the confrontation of the thing throwing things at her in the pool didn't make any sense when you find out that all it wants to do is basically fuck you to death. Why didn't it just jump in the pool and fuck her to death?
Fuck her to death, yeah. Yeah, oh yeah.
And on top of that, there's another part that tweaked me, is that we didn't cover that Jay's kind of a bitch, in the sense that she literally goes out and murders people to save herself.
Yes.
She swims to a boat to. I'm guessing to bone 3 guys who all get probably murdered horribly.
Yes.
And we just kind of brush over that, and we don't have her like grieving or anything.
There's no reciprocation for that action.
And it's even like, you're supposed to, like, the time when she sleeps with the neighbor, you kind of see her going like, I really am guilty. But this is like a malicious act almost on her point, where I'm like, I would have liked to see this innocent girl go, oh God, what am I doing? You know?
Yeah.
I just would have liked
or
that.
go further than her just like taking her clothes off.
Yeah.
And then cut to her driving.
Yeah, her driving.
Or
with
maybe
a wet
that was
cast.
just my internet connection, but I think that's how that transition went.
That's how it did.
Yes.
It's just like you go. Did she just murder those 3 guys? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh God, like that was just tiny little things. Also, friend zone boyfriend, best friend was kind of creepy.
Yes.
And
I feel like the movie need to establish better rules.
Yeah.
I still found the premise of the movie to be very well done.
Yes.
I find the horror in the movie to be very well done. I find its lack of jump scares to be very acceptable. Well, the fear is in the idea of the enemy walking towards you, being a nondescript human, could be anybody. And
I will tell you the most scariest part is her walking into her house, because they purposely did a bunch of turns and turns and turns, and if all it has to do is touch you, you're just going, dear God, don't go into your house, lady, ever.
One of my favorite images is one that comes from the trailer. It comes from a lot of the trailers they used it, but when they're knocking on the door in the bedroom, and she's like, I'm not opening the door. I'm not fucking opening the door. And the girl's like, no, it's me, your sister. It's me, your sister. Just open the door. Like, why won't you open the door? And she opens the door, and her sister's just standing there. And for a second, as an audience, you're like...
And then all of a sudden, there's a big-ass dude.
Big dude, by the way, who I think I read is a mechanical engineer for GM. He's like 7 foot tall. Was apparently in Sterling Heights at the premiere of the movie. Walks up behind her with his fucking eyes gouged out and just stands there.
Yeah.
And that's a really good... The best thing about that movie is it takes whenever you expect the jump to happen and literally waits 0.5 seconds later. Mm-hmm. So you are in some state of calm and then scares you. And it does a really great job of that. And maybe I am just, recent film kind of blinders are on, but I really love that movie as a whole.
Again, Jess brought up really well. It plays on the paranoia of the thing. It's like, you always see it coming, and it's scary that it's not just some person walking towards you. It's that, oh shit, that's the one, and you can see it, and it's terrifying.
The ending is great too.
Yeah,
Spoilers. They're walking down the street and you see someone behind them. They're having this conversation the whole time. They're holding hands and walking. And between their heads, you just see someone walking straight down the sidewalk, like very fiercely towards them. Apparently, the original ending was they were going to be on a plane. Like sitting on a plane flying somewhere, and someone in the back gets up of the plane and starts walking down the aisle. And that's how the movie ends. But I think they did a great job with just doing it in the local area, like doing it walking down the street.
Also, between this and Don't Breathe, can we stop showing Detroit as like a fucking Fallout setting?
That movie took place in Detroit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which one? It Follows or Don't Breathe?
No, Don't Breathe.
Yeah, Don't Breathe takes place in Detroit, and like It Follow has this weird scene where they start talking about not supposed to go north and not supposed to go whatever of 8 miles,
south of 8.
Don't go down that way.
Don't go down that way, and I'm just like, is this really necessary right now? Just fucking.
Though they do never explicitly say it's in Detroit.
Yeah, except you know where 8 Mile is.
But if you live in Detroit, you know it.
Let's see, Michigan license plate check, 8
Yeah.
Mile check. What looks like a Fallout 4 setting. Yeah, that's Detroit.
That's Detroit. All right, LB, what do you got for us?
Number one.
Number one.
Oh, speaking of 70s horror and the slasher ever always following you.
And John Carpenter?
And John Carpenter. I got a special one for you guys. You ready?
LB.
This is a classic.
Maybe it's your best shot.
You're gonna play the song, aren't you? Yeah, you are.
Don't want to get copyright. Cut that shit off.
All right.
That opening
before
shot.
getting copyright.
That opening pumpkin shot. Just the jack-o'-lantern like slowly.
You're talking about the Rob Zombie remake, correct?
Right?
Shut up.
No,
For
I'm
the
talking
record,
about-
that's the first one that I saw. I like the later one.
What's
So John Carpenter's Halloween, featuring Michael Myers, and also featuring Jamie Lee Curtis.
Did this
Mike Myers. I loved Goldmember.
You're the only one.
Crew is an amazing movie.
Michael Myers Halloween sort of jump-started the slasher craze of the 80s
I was about
and
to
early
ask,
90s.
was this the one that started it all?
I mean, technically you had previous slasher films like Psycho and everything, but this is the first, like, of the golden age, they say. This one sparked it.
Yeah.
On this one, and then the success of, like, Friday the 13th.
Which was 1980 was the Friday the 13th. Halloween came out in 1978.
78,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you have John Carpenter, by the way, did that music. That was his own thing.
Same with
He
the
directed it, obviously. No, not the thing.
Well, it's that was his style. He didn't do it himself, but like
Right.
that,
But in
like,
the thing, he composed the music.
yeah,
Or another thing.
the
On Halloween, he
yeah,
composed
like
the
this,
music.
but like Halloween, you can see the echoes of John Carpenter's career, like straight through. You know.
So it's obviously it's a slasher film. It follows Michael Myers as he goes around killing people, mostly teenagers. These friends around. I think Laurie is her name. And and it's explained that the reason he's doing it is just because he's pure evil. He's not, and he's just a kid. The movie opens with a POV of him going around and killing his own, I believe, sister and her boyfriend.
Her like his whole family, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, just the two of them.
No,
His parents,
that was
his
in the
parents go up,
shitty remake.
Michael, what are you doing? And they take off his mask.
That's right.
He's just a little boy, little 6-year-old boy.
There's something like genuinely scary about a killer who has no motive whatsoever.
Right.
Besides, yeah.
As much as I like movies where there is motives, it is generally terrifying when one is done really, really well like this.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire movie of Halloween, you have no idea why he's following Laurie specifically and trying to kill her. They explain it in later movies, but in this movie, there's no explanation. He's just following her and he's out to get her.
It's
just don't like her.
No,
it's terrifying.
The thing is also that it's something so simplistic as that makes this movie so well. Right? I mean, I don't really have much else to say other than you should fucking know what this movie is, you know?
Yeah. Right. It's very well done. And if you consider yourself a person of film or appreciation for film in general, like, you need to watch this movie.
I mean, you can come and say it's not that scary, you know, especially compared to more modern stuff. Even cinematically, it's not the best. But when you consider we're talking about the best horror films, if these are the 31 horror films you have to watch, Halloween's got to be on that list.
Like, this pretty much needs to be played on Halloween. This is your Halloween movie. I'm willing to take my personal favorite Halloween movie, like horror movie, off of Halloween because this is so thematically so perfectly made to be played that night. This is this is October 31, 2016. Everybody should have it on their TV.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. We're going to make the Mexicans pay for it.
I agree that I think it's one of the better. God damn it! Trying to have a serious thing here, and Bill's fucking.
And then,
doing
I do something really fucking stupid. Hey, look, Jin.
I have, and I think this is just me, to be honest. I've never been able to get into slasher films. They've just never been a thing that's ever really worked for me. Freddy, Jason, they're just characters that don't work for me, and I think a film style that doesn't work for me. Jeepers Creepers never been able to get into.
Yeah.
Scream never was really able to get into. And I think that's just more me being a dumb fuck than anything. Like, I don't think it's anything against the movies themselves. I think Halloween is very much deserving of #1 spots in a lot of lists. I think it definitely deserves to be a Halloween classic that people watch. But for me, it just never really worked. And I could never get behind slasher gore porn movies.
To be fair, Halloween isn't that gory at all, actually.
No, it's not.
It pulls a lot of punches, actually, and leaves it a lot up to your imagination.
I just could never get into the mass murder movies or the killing spree movies, which is why I recommend movies like Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. If you've never seen that movie, you need to track it down and watch it, because it totally tears down all these types of slasher films. But I can totally back the idea of saying Halloween should be, and it should be #1 on a lot of people's lists. It's just I've never been able to stomach those kinds of movies, and I don't know why. I really don't know why, to be honest.
Fun fact, I was just reading this. You know, they always say that in the slasher films that teenagers who have sex are targeted because they're, morally deficient or whatever.
Yeah.
But apparently, John Carpenter's reasoning for it was just simply that teens having sex are distracted. That's it.
Of course they are.
They're distracted, so they can't see the
that,
killer sneaking up on them.
Jason was trying to be more of like I avenge, I take revenge.
You're having sex.
Right.
Well,
that's the thing.
Jason,
he had a very specific motivation. Him and his mother is revenge for what happened to Jason when he was a child.
In fact, I think one of the things that fails about the Rob Zombie remake is that it specifically intended to create a reason for why Michael was a killer.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it was like the whole first half hour of the movie was just little kid Michael, and showing how he got dicked on all his for 12 years. And I was like, well, I don't really care about that.
And that goes back to my whole feeling about modern movie watchers need to have everything explained to them. And I think people who appreciate good film appreciate a story. And if that story is open-ended or there's some things that aren't completely explained, that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Most of my favorite movies fall into that category. So
yeah,
I don't know if there's anything else anybody wants to say, but it's Halloween. Come on, right?
Yeah,
right. Classic.
There are some movies where you just kind of go, "It's Halloween. It's X movie." If you don't know about it, where have you been living?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Halloween supposed to originally be an anthology series?
Yes, it was supposed to be. Every Halloween movie was supposed to be a different thing, which is why Halloween 3 is so drastically different.
Season of the Witch.
It's so drastically different.
And then when it got bad responses, they were like, okay, well, we'll just go back and do the Michael Myers thing again. Yeah.
So I'm gonna take over LB's choice here because one of us has to leave. Jess, give us your #1.
That's what I was gonna pick.
Oh, cool.
God,
Thank
just
you.
take LB's
I'm so
predictions.
sorry.
And then we're gonna take a quick hiccup break to rearrange all of our pictures,
Faces.
and then we'll continue on.
Okay. My
Then
#1 pick is the Evil Dead remake, Evil Dead 2013. I think it is one of the most perfect remakes I've ever seen in my entire life, and it pays perfect homage to the entire Evil Dead series. Bill, you look like you have some opinions.
No,
on
I'm
it.
gonna let you finish what you want to say.
I'm gonna let you finish. Thanks, Kanye.
I'm gonna let you finish. But
But
Bruce Campbell.
but Bruce Campbell. It did
Campbell had
not
Resident
have
Evil Dead.
Bruce Campbell.
No,
but,
it did.
Like,
It actually did.
It did. It
Well,
did. Post
did.
credit scene.
Groovy.
That's all it needed to be, baby.
I think that without, and you know what the thing is, it's not Ash versus Evil Dead, which they did come up with afterwards, which is if you tag those two together, which
2
are
to
no
3 years
way
later.
at all like right. But here's the thing, like it paid perfect homage to all the parts that you loved in Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, like, or if you follow Evil Dead the musical and like
The
all the
comics
like
and
the
everything.
whole the comics, the everything, like then you will find something to identify with in that remake.
I will say this. I enjoyed it. And
Good.
you were shocked that I didn't see it, but like the thing is, like it was so off my radar for so long, and when I did actually
Right.
sit down to see it, then I realized it was actually the premiere night of Ash versus the Evil Dead, and I was like, why am I gonna have a cheeseburger when I can have a triple-decker cheeseburger of Bruce Campbellness? And that was the thing. Like when I sat down to watch this, it actually took me 4 hours to watch this movie
Really?
because I was judging it unfairly.
Yeah.
And I didn't, like I said about the Ghostbusters movie, I don't want to hate fuck a movie. And I was like, this movie has the quality here. Why am I hating it? I need to stop. And I honestly think, this is going to contradict what you said, I think the biggest problem I had with this movie is that it was called Evil Dead. The
Yes.
plot, the characters, there were so much original stuff here that it could have been something else. And I know it wasn't made this way, but it literally feels like it wasn't done this way, that it was another movie that the studio came in and said, you're Evil Dead now. Change it. And I'm like,
Yeah, but
no.
The practical effects in
don't-
that movie
the
were
See,
phenomenal.
The
here's-
practical effects were great, but like the plot line was something that wasn't
But-
in Evil Dead before.
Right.
And I enjoyed that, but I was like, I would enjoy it more if it was a new series.
here's the thing, it had already been done.
Yeah.
At that point in time, it had already been done. Because Cabin in the Woods and Evil Dead came out within a year of each other,
Yeah.
and all the confusion between whether or not Cabin in the Woods was
the
like
Evil Dead.
the promised prophecy of the remake that people had been talking about, and the confusion within that, and the remounting of a whole new idea, while at the same time relying on the same basis of the storyline. Because, like, really, if you're talking about characters, Cabin in the Woods is more true to Evil Dead characters than
But that's
Evil Dead
that's one of
characters
the-
are. And I
that's
know
one of the
that's
strong
it's
things.
frustrating you.
No, that's actually one of the strong points of this film is that these characters had fleshed out backstories where they're here to stop X character. I think his name was Mia. Was it Mia?
Yeah, it was Mia.
My one beef was that I never learned any of their names. Is that like some of the characters were truly unlikable, so I was glad when things
You
happened to
didn't
them.
know about Grandpa the dog? Like,
Yeah,
they
well,
killed Grandpa!
I was actually really upset about that, and that was one of the stops where I was like, I had to take a break from this movie because it fucking blows.
Can't watch that movie now.
Yeah, no, they killed the dog, but like Mia is there
That's-
because they're like she can't have another heroin overdose or she'll be dead, and like this
Right.
kind of deadbeat brother's like, what do you mean she almost had a heroin overdose? Like, motherfucker, if
No,
you
but
weren't
you
in
told me
Chicago, you know, it's like you
Right.
also skipped out on your mom's dying of cancer or something like that.
Right.
These characters had enriching stories that were like, I actually care
Yeah.
about them instead of douchebag friend and douchebag friend's girlfriend and sister of Evil Dead, you know? And that's part of the thing that bugged me. I was like, why are we here? Like, don't get me wrong, I love the cabin. I love the cabin in the woods,
Yeah.
the actual cabin. And it was great to be there again. But I'm like, come on, why do you have to be here? You are so good that you could be somewhere
Right.
else and still be amazing. Like, this
Right.
movie could be amazing because the practical effects, the amount of gore,
It's good as a standalone.
it really is. And that's what
Like-
bugs me, is that
Yeah.
it didn't need to be Evil Dead, not in the sense that it sullied
And
Evil
it's
Dead.
a strong, independent black woman, and I don't need no man?
It
Is
don't-
that why you don't like it?
It don't need no Evil Dead. It didn't need the name. It could have been amazing by itself. And that's...
But then I would always get side comments talking about how much it's like Evil Dead.
Well, if it didn't take place specifically in a cabin in the woods, and they didn't have the Necronomicon Exactly. Like those two things would have changed. Fuck it. It would have been perfect. It really would have been. Because everyone says the practical effects, great. That scene with what's her face cutting her face off in the shower, terrifying. Blonde Biddy cutting her arm off with like a power saw, like the meat saw.
Yeah,
that is worse than Ash cutting his hand off with a chainsaw because that thing is dull as shit.
Dull as shit. Yeah.
The car scene at the end gets me.
Yeah.
When she's literally pulling her whole arm off to reach this chainsaw.
Yeah.
And all done with, practical prosthetic effects. The tongue cutting with the box cutter.
God, that scene.
Prosthetics. That's not CG.
I think this is hindered by its title, though.
That's my beef. I wish someone said, let's not make it Evil Dead. Let's make it something original and start a new series and say fuck everything.
And I can agree with you with that.
That's my only
I can
beef.
be within and without with that whole situation.
But at the same time, it was nice. Again, I wish I would have saw this in theaters because it was nice to go back to the cabin.
Oh, so good.
It was so good, especially with the idea of sister's evil. They throw her in the cellar, and you're just like, yes, yes, yes. And it's like all these points are there, and but watching it now so far removed, and after watching Ash versus the Evil Dead, where they go, we're back to the cabin with Ash, baby.
You shouldn't have watched it afterwards.
I know.
I think that's the killer because.
Yes. I agree.
The gratification of watching Ash versus the Evil Dead after watching Cabin in the Woods and Evil Dead and watching the progression of remounting this idea, it's so gratifying. And then you're like, there you are, buddy. I've been looking for you all along.
It really is.
What up?
If you want to watch
Bruce Campbell.
If you're saying to yourself, man, I kind of want to watch all of the Evil Dead, this is how you watch it. Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead the reboot, because it's not a remake, it's a reboot.
Right.
Then Ash versus the Evil Dead, you will have no problems.
Groovy.
But, yeah, like I said, that's my only beef. I actually I really enjoyed this film.
I'm glad. I'm glad you did.
I'm glad.
Has everybody else seen the movie?
No.
Yes.
No?
Birch hasn't
It's not my to-do.
Birch hasn't seen any Evil Dead.
I don't watch movies, man.
Yeah, you're on a podcast where we mostly talk about movies.
Fine.
Grad school, fuck.
Yeah. But no,
Hey.
for real.
Alright.
Really happy with this movie, Jess. Really happy.
I'm glad. That makes me happy, being that you were one of the first people that introduced me to Evil Dead the original.
Fuck, was I?
Yeah. Belle, that's why I got upset when you're like, you didn't watch Alien? And like, if I had never seen Alien, then you would hate yourself.
I would hate myself. I would have failed as a
Yeah.
friend. I would have failed.
You would have failed.
So
I still have a full conducive list of movies that I have watched upon your request.
all right, just say goodnight.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night,
Good
Jess.
night,
It's a
Jess.
boy party now.
Sorry
It's a boy
that
party
I'm
now.
tired
We're-
and
Boy
working
party.
in the
We're
morning.
Listen, we're gonna get all the feminists mad at us because we're losing our girl, and the boobs are gone, so all the horny guys are gone. And
great. LB stuff.
Stopped you before. I'm
LB
just here. I'm just the token
LB
girl.
what?
LB,
For all the
LB, get
funny
some
guys.
balloons under your shirt now. Get a thong on and start twerking. We gotta get
Just
those
put your
hits.
knees up in your...
Let me see that thought. No. Bye.
We'll be right back. 1,
2, 1.
Okay, we're back.
And we're back.
We lost LB too, so we're down to 3.
Guys night.
Guys' night, which is fine because it worked out really well that we got them out of the way. So, who wants to take their number 1?
I could jump in and do mine. Mine is one that a lot of people have seen. I think it's Babadook. And I wouldn't even. I don't know if I'd call it my absolute 100% number 1, but I do know, because I didn't have much time to think about it, but I do know that it is like very much right up at the top. Because I think it's really, really smart. It's a smart film, completely the opposite of my number 2. Which is funny. Just I don't know. I just like different kinds of horror movies, I guess. But Babadook, like I first saw the trailer for it, and in the trailer, all it was primarily it was the scene of the mother reading the Babadook book to her annoying ass kid,
Oh,
and And I thought, this is a creepy book. And then when I realized it was like this, and I thought it was just a straight up monster movie, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this could be. It looks something like maybe it's a good version of that awful Boogeyman movie that came out in like 2000.
Oh God,
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember that movie. Holy shit!
It was bad. It was real bad.
Oh, yeah.
So I checked it out. Obviously, it was on Netflix. I think I watched it the day it came onto Netflix, the day it premiered, and I was like blown away by it. I think there's no jump scares, so I
No.
respect it for not having a jump scare. You don't get to see the monster super clearly, which makes it scarier because you have to imagine it, fill in the blanks. And I really liked the fact that it's a movie about grieving. It's a movie about how a woman mourns her late husband and the child that she was left with, who she kind of doesn't really like that much.
He's
She
fucking autistic. That kid is so autistic. It's and I don't mean that as a joke. That kid is so autistic.
I think he must
so
be.
many ways.
And that must be hard for her, especially after like he's kind of the reason the guy's dead. And she resents him, and the idea of a parent resenting their child is it's something that it deals with well, because it made me fucking hate the kid. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm feeling the same way. It's like she loves him, but she doesn't really like him right now, and she can't get rid of that because she hasn't been able to deal with she hasn't been able to process the death of her husband.
Yeah.
So now this Babadook thing comes in,
Fucking Babadook.
and not fucking Babadook comes in, and it's I realized about halfway through, I was like, oh my god, this monster is a symbolization of her grief that she's not dealing with.
Mhm.
And that's why I love the ending, spoilers, whatever, how it's like it will never go away. She will never be able to just forget her husband. She'll live with that grief for the rest of her life, but she's learning how to live with it. She feeds it sometimes, and sometimes it's hard. She goes in the basement, and the thing kind of screams at her, and then she controls it. You know, like she has, like any of us would after a loss. We have our moments where we kind of almost get overwhelmed by it, but then we push it back. And I love the metaphor of it.
I'm so glad you now explained that to me, because full things. I didn't really care for this movie.
Okay, that's fine.
That's the thing. It's fine. Because I was like, oh, the storybook is really cool. You're really unique. And then it's just a hipster and a fucking hat. And then like, the ending is, oh, she made the Babadook literally her bitch. Here's your gruel, motherfucker. Deal with it. So
Yep.
Now that you explain that to me, it's not so bad.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of the movies that I think warrants more than one viewing. Because on the surface, it's very like, oh, okay. And then she gets like possessed by it. And
I didn't give it its due. I'll give it fair. I'll give it another watch. It's just like, because I was just like, she made it her bitch. Whatever.
Okay, that's fine.
Fuck it.
I found, and I totally understand, Chris, your sentiment on how the kid being annoying causes us to resent the kid. For some reason, the kid in this movie crossed the line of being plot annoying.
And it was like, you couldn't fucking stand
being like,
it.
can you shut the fuck up, you annoying fucker?
I'm going to push you out of a treehouse, motherfucker.
Yeah, I don't think he was as actively a representative of the autistic community as he could have been. I think he serves as a certain extreme that is very rarely seen, and maybe that is true for the character. But like the character just became too annoying at some point, where it was like I'm now no longer understanding the mother, and now I just don't like the movie because this kid doesn't. That scene when they're in the car and he's screaming in the back of the car, I literally was like, this is where I start to tune out of the movie.
Yeah.
Because it's just beyond annoying. It is deplorable.
It's like you made your point, movie. I get it. He's an annoying kid.
Annoying. Can we just do this?
Give him more depth, please.
Yes.
It's like if you watched our Stranger Things review, my problem with Lucas was that the first 3 episodes he goes, 11 is a weirdo. 11 is a weirdo. 11. I hope you got used to it, because there's 3 more hours of that. Give him depth, because there's a character here. That's what the kid is. This kid has depth. The character has depth. Give him something to fucking do.
Yeah. The cool thing about the movie, I know a little bit on the background of it. It was made on a super cheap budget. It was made on a very low budget, which I think actually turns out a lot of good horror films
Oh, it really does.
is low budget horror films, because I think that's more realistic and more scary.
Well, they have
Yeah.
to. They have to. Again, a lot of things with horror films and monster movies is that the less you see of the monster, the more the imagination takes over. You remember that
Right.
episode of Doug, where he gets scared of seeing the monster movie, and everyone's
Yes.
like makes fun of him because he left the movie theater, and his imagination was far worse until you saw that there's a zipper. That's the thing. The less you see, the more your brain takes over. So these little indie budget films do so much more, which is why I was a little disappointed with the monster. The fucking book did wonders because
Yeah.
it was great. It was animated, and like Krampus did the same thing, and except I liked Krampus because we didn't see what Krampus looked like, and it still haunts me. I wish we never saw the Babadook
Yeah.
ever. Like, it would bug me that in an alternative universe where we never saw the Babadook. I'm like, I wish we would have saw the fucking Babadook. No,
You know
at
what?
this
The,
point,
the
I
two
wish we
the
would've
two
saw it.
appearances of the Babadook that really got to me were the ones where you didn't see any. The one was when it first appears. Well, it first comes to the bedroom door slowly opens,
Mhm.
and at first it's the dog, and she's like, "Oh, it's just the dog." And then it happens again, and she hears the knocks, and the door opens, and then she like covers herself up, and all you hear is it saying its name. And the way it says it, like the first time I heard that,
Yeah.
like my hair stood up on my, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh," and
That's all I ever needed for that movie. I was like, yep, okay, this is great. And then,
Yep. And then there was when
Kids in
the hat when the I was funny fact I was watching this movie the second time I watched it with a group of people, so I already had seen it, I was enjoying it, but I was watching with a bunch of people who had not seen it yet, and one guy was sitting, big grown ass man sitting by a fireplace, and in that bit where the hat falls through into the fireplace, I've never seen a man jump across a room as fast
Scurry
as
so
in that
quickly.
moment.
well, Billy made this thing that jump scares are the poop jokes of horror films, but a good jump scare
Yes.
is worth everything. But there
Yes.
has to be a lot of setup, and it can never be overused.
If you're
That's
jump
a good
scaring me
one.
every 30 seconds, fuck off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you can excuse a comedy where eventually they throw in a really well crafted poop joke. You're like, all right, that's well done. You got me on that. The joke was shit. And this one you're like, oh god, so pissed,
Yeah.
but that was so good. God damn it,
Yes. The one thing I do like too, I was just actually reading this before we started today because I was doubling up my research on all the top twos. The director owns the rights to the film.
Oh, that's good.
And she said there's never going to be a sequel. She said,
Good.
get over it. It's not going to happen because it's not a movie that needs a sequel. And I'm glad that she is that proud of her film, that she owns it. And is
I hope she makes more movies. I just don't want them to be anything to do with the Babadook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. It's like I was going to bring up another fun mention since he's been brought up a lot, but John Carpenter owns The World to Escape from New York and Escape from LA. And the funny thing is Kurt Russell owns the rights to Snake Plissken.
Oh, cool.
So, because he literally goes, I stole the fucking costume. They can't do shit without me. And like, then when they go, we're going to remake, this is just a little thing that my brain works, is like, when they go, we're going to remake Escape from New York, and like John Carpenter is in the way of like, yeah, fuck it,
No.
whatever. Kurt Russell's going, fuck you, we're going to make Escape from the third film, okay?
Yeah. I like when directors can take ownership of what they have and can't let a studio kind of bend it over and fucking destroy it.
With that is a huge respect for me, and thinking about the Babadook being more of a metaphorical thing, I'll give it another shot. I will.
Yeah. It's worth a second watch.
Okay. Yeah, my first viewing, and I don't think I was giving it my full attention.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird little movie. It's very, very kind of strange.
Like I said, I think the biggest thing that takes me out of it is the fucking kid. I think that's the kind of thing that just destroys it for me.
I remember when it first came out, I was talking to you about it, and you were like, "Is this kid always this terrible?" Like,
yeah, he's just an annoying, and like he's the. Hold on. Muted myself so I could see.
That is the best.
It's also like how the fucking kid looks too, and this is so like I'm literally like destroying this poor kid, but he's got this big ass fucking mouth with these fucking British ass looking teeth, and he does nothing but scream the entire movie, and it's like You, for me, as the reason why I hate elementary education, that kid is the reason why. Like, and it rips me from that movie so badly. I really I don't know the lead actress's name, but I really like her. I think she does a phenomenal job. I think the script writing is really well done. I agree with Bill. I wish I never saw the Babadook, and we just kind of left that open.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, even something really cool would have been. I mean, some people might have saw it as hokey, but I would have really, really loved if they would have take what small budget they had and literally just animated the Babadook from the book.
The book
into these sparing scenes of like almost Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and like just have it go across the wall, and you just kind of go, what? And almost like, you know, what was it? Link to Another World, where they did the whole you shrunk into the wall. Never have it leave the plane of a wall. That would have been, you know, something interesting like that. I just when it manifested, it was just kind of like that was the zipper showing for me, where I was just like, fuck this movie.
Well, and I felt a really weird disconnect between what they showed in the book and what the character actually ended up looking like. There's such a
scarier in the book.
Yeah,
and there's such a large disconnect between those two things.
And again, that's why I brought up Krampus, is that when the animated scenes happen in Krampus, all you see is this hulking mass of a creature with a Santa Claus cloak and hood, and you just see its eyes. And the events that are played out in the storybook you don't see anything. It's like it's told from this little girl who survived, and you just kind of go, the fuck was that about? So when Krampus plays out the rest of the way, you kind of go, you start connecting the dots and go, oh shit. So when I was watching the Babadook, I was expecting something similar, and I didn't quite get that, and it frustrated me.
Yeah,
I have a day off tomorrow. I'm watching Krampus. I'm just gonna rent it.
Yeah,
have you seen it yet?
I've only seen parts of it. But I wanted to. I wanted to see it in theaters when it came out last year. I was gonna go see it with Katie, my girlfriend, and we never got to doing it. And now I want to see it.
Name drop. She was supposed to be on the podcast, but bailed on us.
One day, she promises. One day, she promises. One day,
whenever she's ready. We understand. We totally understand.
We need less testosterone.
I hope you do enjoy Krampus. Again, if you have any kind of surround system, or like put it on your laptop and with your headphones, because the sound is amazing. But yeah, Babadook. Anything else we want to say about it?
Check it out. It's worth it.
It's worth it. I would say it's worth it. I will recognize I didn't probably watch it in the best of lights.
Rewatch.
Billy, your number one, please, which hurt my soul.
I'm sure it did. And is this the only foreign film on our list?
No, we've had a lot of foreign films.
You had the right one in.
Oh yeah. Okay, the only Austrian film on our list. Known in Austria as Ixe, known as Good Night Mommy in English. One of the
this movie
weirdest, most fucked up films I've ever seen. Basic premise.
I have no desire to watch this movie.
Oh, it's good.
Did you read it? Did you read about it?
Yes, and I have no desire to see this movie.
See, I read it and went, I need to see this movie, and then I wish I didn't.
This is something that just like, I don't know why, but I've come to have too much empathy for movie characters lately, and I will feel too hard for this woman, and I don't want to do it.
So, premise of the movie, for those who haven't seen it, it's definitely I think it's worth a watch. I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Let's just put it this way. Not until Act 3 of the movie does it become torture-y.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's very much a torture porn movie at a certain point. Mother goes to get plastic surgery. She is a famous Austrian news broadcaster. She gets some plastic surgery done to help herself look better for the camera. She comes back home with all these bandages on her face to her two sons.
Lucas and Alice?
Yes, they've got some weird-ass names.
I'll look it up.
Two little blonde, pale-ass motherfucking Austrian boys. And
yeah, Austrian?
Yeah, and they start acting really weird. She starts acting kind of weird. The boys start acting kind of weird. And the boys believe that their mother has been replaced by someone else, or they did something to her, they brainwashed her, or
Elias and Lucas, which are actually the boys' names.
Right, Elias and Lucas. And this is their first experience ever acting was in this movie. It was like their first big thing. And so they essentially start to fuck with and eventually torture this woman that they believe is not their mother, to try and figure out who she is.
Because she starts like doing things that they find not.
Normal.
She's violent. She's very violent with them. She yells a lot at them.
Short-tempered.
She starts doing weird things like just walking around the house for no reason.
She forces them to close all the blinds. She forces them to go play outside. Well, allow me to reword that. Forces one of them to go outside because she's ignoring the other. Blatantly.
Yes, very blatantly. Well, and because he has done something wrong. It's overly implied that the other kid did something wrong, so she is not dealing with him. And spoilers, the movie goes all Sixth Sense. And about, 3/4 of the way, right towards the very end of the movie, you find out that one of the brothers actually died in a car accident?
They never say. They
never explicitly say how he died.
All we know is that she says to, was it Lucas who's the real one?
Yes, yeah.
Lucas, it wasn't your fault.
Yes. And that Lucas has been acting on his own the entire time against his mother. And the whole movie takes this really great 180 turn where you're kind of on the boys' side for the first half of the movie, like, who the fuck is this woman? What is she doing? Yeah. And then the twist happens, and you're like, holy fuck, I have been rooting for the wrong people the entire time. And a lot of the segments in the movie are really violent. They, they gorilla glue her mouth shut after tying her to her bed, and they like cut it open with an X-Acto knife, and like blood comes gushing out of her mouth.
Don't play up those nightmare scenes too with the cockroaches.
Oh yeah, with the cockroaches, where they put the cockroach in her mouth and everything, and it climbs into her mouth. I will say, the trailer for the movie has some. If you go back and watch the trailer after watching the movie, there's a lot of cuts in the trailer that piss me off.
Yeah.
Because in the trailer, the cockroach crawls in her mouth, and the next thing you hear is the sound of her biting it.
That never happened.
And that never happened in the movie. The cockroach crawled in her mouth, and they cut a sound from her eating crackers in bed into that scene. But maybe that's part of the whole illusion to get us to side with the boys from the beginning. It very closely veers towards torture porn. It very closely does. But I think the twist in the movie is enough that you are horrified from the things that you have thought from the beginning of the movie.
And the thing is, once you know the twist, so I really hope somebody turned it off. This off. If Grandma in Germany, who's probably seen this a billion times already, like once you know the twist, it's pretty easy to pick up on.
Yeah. Well, and on my second and third rewatches of the movie, though, you actually start picking up on those clues. I think it's a movie that is good to watch twice.
Yeah.
You can watch it twice and still get a good level of enjoyment out of it.
The only thing that bugged me, well, there's a lot that bugged me. The only thing that didn't flow with the twist was that
scene where she walked into the woods.
When she walked into the woods, but also that she wanted him to play outside.
Yeah.
It was like because you get the idea that dad left because of divorce.
Right.
Horrible accident happened, killed brother, probably scarred mom, which is why she got plastic surgery. That's just how I kind of interpreted it, was that why would she let the only remaining son, out of her sight at all?
Yeah.
Like, that's the one thing that, like, I can understand, because she says it wasn't your fault. And I got, well, maybe since he likes to play with matches so much, that, because she gets really violent about anytime he plays with matches.
Yeah.
That maybe there was a fire and that's what killed the brother and hurt her. But even then, why would she let him go outside unsupervised at all? That's the only thing that kind of didn't flow with the twist.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of my favorite things about that movie, so there's this really fucked up scene where the boy, well, one of many fucked up scenes in that movie, where they go into this little cave and they find a dead cat. And so they decide to put this cat in like formaldehyde or some really weird shit inside the center of, in a fish tank in the center of the room, and they light the top of it on fire at one point, and it's really fucked up. One of the best things about this movie, I was reading an interview with the directors, 2 directors, both females, Austrian females. In the interview, the interviewer's like, hey, so they're talking about like the effects in the movie and the props. And she's like, that dead cat prop was really cool. Like it looked very realistic. Who created it? And one of the directors explicitly looks at her and goes, what are you talking about? She's like, the cat in the movie, the prop. And she's like, it's not a prop. They found a dead cat on the side of the road, cleaned it, and put it in the film. And I'm like,
And then fucking set it on fire.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
PETA's probably losing their shit right now.
Exactly. And for me, something like that, knowing something like that, it's that attention to it's a detail thing. And like there's a commitment to making a horror film on a certain level where you are literally pulling real objects out of life and putting it into a film.
Yeah.
It's fucked up in a lot of ways, and like I said, it does very closely edge the idea of torture porn, but I think without that twist, it would be a solid torture porn film.
Yeah. One point I loved the most after all of the torture is when they're about to set everything on fire.
Yeah.
And Lucas goes, what is Elias about to do? And since he's not there, she can't say anything. And he goes over, and this is like this great moment where Lucas grabs Elias, goes, this is my reality, and sets the place on fire. And you're just like, all right, fuck it, we're here. This is the hill.
Yeah.
Whee!
It is such a dark film.
And that honestly kind of brought me back to the kid's side. I'm sorry, it is, because
no.
Like, he is mentally damaged beyond belief.
Well,
but at that point, it's like, fuck it, we're going it. We're doing it.
It's very paired similarly to, I think, I would pair it very similarly to Babadook in that it is a dealing of how you deal with death and dealing with grief, but it is in the complete 100% opposite way that Babadook does it, because Babadook's about getting over it and taming it. This movie is about embracing it and literally burning everything to the ground you have.
This is if it's not taken care of, because kids lose dad. Kid loses best friend, brother, and / mother, to the point where he is so damaged he doesn't think that's mom anymore. And
right.
And he's probably left alone for a good chunk of time that he starts seeing brother, because best friend since birth. And
right. And they also live in the middle of nowhere too.
It's such an implosion of everything that you just kind of go, I don't want to touch this movie anymore. I need to go put on a Disney film now.
I'm gonna watch Aladdin.
I need to go pop in Aladdin, please.
It's very dark. It's got some very scary imagery to it. I think the imagery is very horrifying.
It's the same level of unsettling that I had with Maggie, but I feel like this is played on a much wider scale that people would understand.
Yeah, and I love it that it's 3 actors.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll throw the 2 people. There's like a very brief scene with 2 people.
Fuck it, that doesn't count.
It doesn't really count, but it does do a lot for suspense
Yeah.
with that scene, because they have the mother tied up upstairs.
That doesn't count. Fuck them.
But it's pretty much 3 characters for the entire film. And 2 of those characters are twins, and one of them isn't even really a person anymore.
Those kids, going back to what you said earlier too, like the idea of good child actors, these kids now,
Oh, and for their first time ever acting, that's their first film. They killed it.
Literally.
Yeah, in more ways than one. But I will say this. I've already said it 5 times. I'm going to say it again. It's the twist in the movie that may be, in terms of horror films, kind of a stereotypical twist. Oh, he was dead all along. But it's the way that the twist impacts the narrative that we are looking at.
Well, it's not like The Sixth Sense, where the twist defines the movie.
Right.
It's not excusing what they've done. It's the twist is a revelation for the audience,
Right.
and that the main character refuses to accept it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, the twist helps the movie. It doesn't
Yeah.
define the movie.
And I don't know about you, Bill, but my first time watching it, I watched it with like 5 people in my apartment.
Watched it by myself in the dark.
Late at night. Yeah, late at night, pitch black. And up until the reveal of the twist, the whole time we're like, what the fuck is this person? Who the fuck is
Yeah,
this person that
yeah.
replaced her mother? Why would this person do this? What's their motive? And the second the twist reveals, we all looked at each other and we're like, we've been wrong.
Yeah.
We are wrong. We are so wrong. And like I said, I think even though the twist is something that has been done multiple times, I think how the twist
Yes.
makes the audience feel makes the movie great.
Yeah. And like that's exactly right. You're like, who the fuck is this mom? Who
Yeah.
get the fuck out of my house? And it happened. You're just like, and I was like, literally, like, didn't know what to think, didn't know what to feel, until he grabs Elias's arm and goes, "Nope, fuck
This is
you.
my reality." Yeah.
This is my reality." And you go, and like literally, I didn't know what to think. So that was like the roller coaster moment. We're like,
Yep.
fuck it,
Fuck it.
we're doing it.
And it's definitely, like I said, a movie worth watching twice, because then, like, everything that the mother does that seems weird,
Is justified.
it's justified. Like, even when she's just randomly walking outside, she's fucking working on, like, her garden and her plants and all that stuff out there. Like, there's a reason for her to walk around outside.
Yeah,
There's a reason for her to be angry at her son who will not give up.
Yeah, and like that's kind of like that's where my problem with go play outside.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make any sense because you're allowing him to accept that his twin brother's still alive. You're not
Right.
there. You're not nurturing him. You're not. It's like you could play it up as like she doesn't want to deal with him right now because she still does blame him for the brother's death. But
Right.
we needed something of that. But since she's so covered in bandages, it's hard to portray anything. You know,
Yes.
that's my beef. That's my only beef.
From
And
what I
also it's
remember,
fucked up.
very few jump scares, if at all.
There's none.
There's some I love that thing where she's she's looking at her face in the mirror and she like shuts the door and it's just her, or she moves the mirror and it's her giant fucking like bloody eye,
Yeah.
like looking at the kid in the door. And it does, like I said, it does that perfect job of setting up like, who the fuck is this woman? What the fuck is she doing? She's fucking weird. She's beating her kid, hitting him and yelling at him and telling him all this shit. And then the twist, and you're just like, everything I know, everything I've done up to this moment is completely wrong.
It's on par. It's more disturbing, but it's on par with the twist of Memento for me.
Yes.
Nothing
yes.
will beat the first time I watch Memento where you just kind of have that moment and you go, oh, God, what did I do? Even though as an audience member, you've just been watching it, but you're going, what have I done?
What have I been believing the entire time?
And that's pretty much what it is to me, on par with, but plus more disturbing on all levels.
I think that the only thing that really is going to hinder this movie from being a big movie is that it's a foreign film.
And I don't think it would ever be remade because of the subject material.
Right.
And like how it's done.
They'd have to tame it the hell down.
And that would ruin it.
I've just recently started exploring foreign films. I just recently got Battle Royale. I just recently got
Battle Royale was okay.
It was okay, but I recently just got Why Don't You Play in Hell, which is a great Japanese film.
Have you seen Troll Hunter?
Yeah, I've seen parts of it.
Oh, you need to watch all of it. It's so fucking good.
So this is just kind of a step. This is just kind of a step for me in watching these foreign films, and I really think this movie could be kind of a niche classic horror film.
Yeah.
The problem that's going to stop it is that there are some people who think it's impossible to read subtitles and enjoy a film.
Yeah.
And that's you don't have to be a genius to read subtitles and understand a movie at the same time.
And the thing is, like, I put subtitles on even on English films because sometimes I can't really hear what's going on because I have it turned down too low or I don't want to wake anybody up. So I read stuff. And also sometimes lines are muddled. So I'm used to having subtitles up as is. Right. I do put all my effort in watching subtitle movies where you're just like, I need to focus on it. I can't have anything else on, and that's one of the beefs. But like, yeah, this movie was fucked up. Fuck you, Billy.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
like I said, I was very iffy at putting on my top just because it's so close to being a torture porn. But if it didn't have that twist really takes it for me out of torture porn and into a horror film, because then you instantly start sympathizing with mom, who's going through all of this shit and watching her world crumble in front of her. The more perspectives you watch that movie from, the scarier it gets.
Okay, time for my
Bill.
number one.
Round us off.
Number one is, in my way, almost a near perfect film. On all sense of the way. It's Alien.
I associate this film with you.
It's Alien. 1979, when Ridley Scott didn't suck dick. Alien. I don't know, Billy, when did you see this movie? Because I had the great joy of actually introducing Alien to Chris Birch.
No,
At
you
my
introduced
house.
it to me too. Not personally,
Yeah,
not
no,
personally
personally, I
introduced
did
it to
with
me, but you harassed me enough to the point that I needed to watch it, and it's great.
My twisted tale of Alien. This is one of the great things. I was 7, and Cinemax showed Alien 3. And I asked my dad, could I watch it? And my dad was like, yeah, fuck it, why not? And we watched it, and I had nightmares for like half a year. I thought my dog was going to have a chest burster pop out of her chest. Okay. Then, because this was growing up in the 90s, my babysitter, who was like part of a daycare, she told us at story times, because we wanted to know, because we were a bunch of rowdy kids, the story to Alien, It, and I believe it was Cujo. She would just tell us those stories, and she wouldn't skip anything. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta see Alien. I gotta see fucking Alien. And then everyone makes fun of Cinemax for being like, softcore porn. They did one cool thing like every month, and it was like Saturdays they would pick an actor or actress, and they would show 3 movies. It could be anything like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're getting Terminator 2, Predator, and The Running Man. Sigourney Weaver, Alien, Aliens, Alien 3.
Alien 3.
And I was like, I turned to my brother. I was like, we have to fucking stay up all night. We're watching this shit. And we put a tape in the VCR. We recorded that shit. And we watched all the Alien films. And we were like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I watched Alien until I really appreciated what sets Alien apart from any other movie I have ever seen. And it's not, we'll get into everything else, but it's not the creature design, which is amazing. It's not the lack of violence or the violence or the story or anything else. It's how it is shot, how it is acted, and how it is recorded. If you told me there was no script to this movie, I would believe you because of how honest every character acts, says a line, repeats lines, and is in the general space of this movie. It blows my fucking mind. Like, Chris Krause watched it once and was like, he's making fun of the part where Parker goes, why don't you freeze him? Why don't you freeze him? And that's when it clicked with me. I'm like, they do this so many times where Ripley's in the front of the shot and Parker's in the background. Parker's barely mic'd. This is how you would be if you were actually the camera. You would hardly hear Parker. Ripley's clear as day. They repeat lines. She's talking over him, so she repeats his line. He repeats the line. They're getting pissed at each other. And I'm like, this is the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
Blows my mind that this is the middle of the film. Story goes, bare basic. Fucking space truckers land on a planet. One of them gets a thing stuck to their face. Turns out to be an alien that is literally death incarnate and murders everybody.
Yeah.
That's the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was alive in 1979 that I could have bought a ticket to see that chestburster scene, to get my mind literally fucking blown when
With a bunch of other
John-
people also getting their minds blown in a
and people
theater.
throwing up in theaters on how gruesome it was. On top of that, finding out later that nobody in the cast, minus John Hurt, knew what the fuck was going to happen. All the script said that day was, it emerges. And then everyone went to their trailer for a few hours, came back, they set it all up, one take. And they're like, please don't laugh. And just blood everywhere. And this creature you have never seen before, made from some really fucked up German, I don't know if he's Swedish, artist, H.R. Geiger. I can't even say God rest his soul. Geiger. Can't say God rest his soul because we know he's down there showing Satan what's evil. Okay, because that man is fucking twisted. He made this creature that haunts my nightmares to this day. The alien right here is literally a work of art in my brain.
Yeah.
Like everything about it is alien. It is disturbing. It is disgusting. And it's the first movie is literally a work of art. Quite literally to me. I'm blown away.
Have you heard the theory? I mean, Stephen Hawking has been saying a lot recently that we should stop attempting to contact outside life because we don't know if it'll be hostile or not. It's like, we should stop because what if it's that?
Yeah. What if it is the xenomorph? Well, we're fucked. Ripley says it best in 2. If one of those things made it to Earth, then all this bullshit, she holds up all the paper, doesn't mean shit. Because we're all dead. And I'm like, yeah, shit, yeah. And that's what this first movie is. Other than the chestburster scene, there's no gore in it.
Yeah.
There's implications of how people are died. One of the most scariest scenes is when Dallas, the captain, is wandering around a vent, and Lambert, that fucking bitch, is trying to tell him where to go, and he goes the wrong direction, and he turns around, and just all of a sudden, it's right there. Cut to black, and all they find is like his gun, and just, what happened? Fuck you, Lambert. You bitch. You stupid bitch. And if you want to argue about strong female characters, let's do it, because Ripley's a fucking badass. Yeah, I will throw Ripley in your, like, there's not enough strong female leads. Yeah, but you know what? I can give you 2 that knocks out any male lead off the face of the planet. One of them's Sarah Connor. The other one's Ellen Ripley. Yeah. All right? Ripley in this first film, you see her blossom into that badass. Like, you are instantly terrified in the final confrontation when she's singing, I think, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Or Shining Star. I don't remember what it is. And you are just right there with her, terrified, going, oh, God, no. Alien. It is my all-time favorite, and it only pushes over John Carpenter's The Thing because of how it's acted.
Yeah.
Birch, you saw it recently, like 3 years ago. What?
Something like that.
Tell me about it. Tell me what you think.
Well, it's
a movie.
It's a movie, and it's the I mean, we've talked a lot about atmosphere tonight, and atmosphere does a lot for it because it puts you into this space where you don't know what's gonna happen. It's not a arguably, I mean, it's a horror movie, but it's not the same kind of horror movie. It's not instantaneous alien killing things.
No, it's an hour before we get the chestburster. A solid hour of a 2-hour film.
Yeah, and then it doesn't let up.
No,
and it's like this sense of like, I mean, you play the isolation game, which I tried and couldn't even fucking do because it's like out of my range, I guess. But you feel like these characters are literally being hunted.
Yeah. And you feel like, not because I talked a lot about rules. It's not that this didn't have rules. It's just that they didn't have the equipment to stop it. Right. Like Ash says, you have my pity because it's perfect killing machine, and you don't have the stuff to take it out. And you're just like, what? We're literally fucked? Okay. And like, you talk about atmosphere, it's really cool because this was when Hollywood gave a shit. That they had 2 artists. One artist, I don't remember the guy's name because he's not Geiger, do everything that had to do with human technology. The Nostromo suits, everything was created by one guy. They told Geiger, create this creature. Create what this creature would live on. Create the alien planet that we'd find this creature. We want everything to do with this. And so you had two drastic styles.
Yeah.
And it's amazing even to this day when you realize how much the alien could easily blend into the Nostromos, the ship, to work. Because there's moments where one of my favorite scenes is right before one of the characters, Bert, is killed because he's looking for Jonesy, the cat. Speaking of that, I don't know where my cat is, so I'm probably going to get killed by an alien. He's looking for Jonesy, and there's this shot that I always try to look out for because I'm paranoid I'm going to miss it, where the alien is visible. 100% visible for about a second and a half, but it's not the center of the screen. It's hanging on a chain. And it just looks like debris. And unless you really look for it, and you're like me going, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There it is. You will miss it.
Yeah.
But it's there. And you're just like, so much care was made into this film that I don't understand what happened to the rest of Hollywood. You know, it just, so much was done right about Alien. And I'm not a big Aliens fan. I understand why people like it, but I came in way late to Aliens because my experience was Alien 3, Alien, then Aliens, Alien 3, so Aliens was kind of done out for me. I don't know if you felt the same way, Birch, because you watched that not too long ago. So much stuff has copied it at this point that the original kind of feels meh.
A little bit.
Yeah. So making a jump from realizing that Alien is this masterpiece in the way of its shot, seeing Aliens and Alien 3 not following that, this free flow dialogue kind of breaks my heart, you know? Imagine if Aliens followed that idea of a free flow script where people repeated lines constantly.
Yep.
Or,
I mean, and that's how people talk.
yeah. This podcast, we talk over each other. We repeat lines. And like,
Yeah.
This is the core difference between like what feels like good improv versus, say, Ghostbusters the remake, where it was bad improv.
Yeah.
That's the most recent thing to get to people, but I'm like, that's what I don't have anything to say about Alien other than it's a fucking masterpiece.
It's quite good.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's terrifying.
Spoopy.
Minus the only scene that doesn't
Spoopy.
hold up is when Ash, the Ash is revealed, spoilers, to be a robot. And they like place his head down and it's clearly a prop, and then it does a quick like in your face jump cut to the actor. Like I said, Alien and The Thing both have one scene where the effects don't hold up. The rest does. The alien in the suit, because you never see it all the way, and even then it is terrifying because of what it is, and your mind can't grasp what the fuck this creature is. Even when you see it, you go, why does it have two mouths? What the shit is this, you know? And you just can't grab it. And that's what sets Alien apart from Aliens to me. Because Aliens kind of made them cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, really got anything else to say about Alien?
I think you pretty much kill it every time you talk about this movie.
It's a passion for me.
No, it should be. It is a classic movie. I think it maybe is a classic to a certain sect of people, more than it would be as a overall classic film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I think people who like Alien love Alien.
Yeah.
People who don't like Alien obviously are not going to think much about it.
Yeah, if you don't like science fiction, if you don't like slow burn, if you just want blood and guts, which, like, you know, when we were coming up with like our horror films, I was like, oh god, we're gonna be flooded with Friday the 13th films. It's not like those are bad. It just, they're not what I like.
No.
Right.
And I'm glad
They have their moments, but
which is why I'm really glad we didn't have any of those. Sans the Evil Deads and the Nightmare on Elm Street, but like even those had their merits to overcome, and like especially with Nightmare on Elm Street, which I really feel like I'm ragging on, but no, Nightmare 1 and Nightmare 3 really hold up in the sense of creative kills to tell a story.
Most of the others don't.
No, they're just story to tell creative kills.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem.
If the kills come within a creative narrative, then we're cool. But if the narrative comes because we want to create cool kills,
yeah,
then fuck it.
And like, that's.
But like, I can watch a movie like that.
I can, but I just I don't classify it a horror film. I don't.
Not going to be on my top lists. That's
Ever.
all.
Yeah. One I can think of I watched recently was The Lazarus Effect.
Yeah.
And I purely bought that movie because Donald Glover's in it. But his death is sweet. The fucking Olivia Wilde, I think it is.
Yeah.
Literally shoots a pen down his throat. Like she like lifts it in the air and just goes, wah, and it goes straight down his throat and chokes him to death. And I was like, that was cool. Too bad the narrative of this movie is fucking garbage.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Sometimes you got to see a movie with some cool deaths.
Yeah,
Thank you, Saw series.
Yeah, it's fuck you. It's like again, if you're looking for that, that's not Alien. Like, if you want to see the chest burster scene, YouTube it. You're not gonna get anything out of it because you don't know who Kane is. You don't get the lasting effect of what happened to Kane and why he was a dumbass for sticking his head into the egg. You don't get anything like that.
Right.
That's the problem. Like Alien, I realize a lot of my films, minus say Evil Dead 2, they're all very slow burn. They're very slow burn, and that's kind of like
I like slow burn though.
A good slow burn.
I don't like movies. I don't like movies that blow their load in the first like half hour.
Yeah, and so that's what Alien is. Alien and The Thing are both slow burn to a degree. Like Alien more so than The Thing, because like you said, once the alien shows up, shit starts flying fast. Like we have like alien showed up, countdown to 10 credits. Let's go. It's not fast because you still have like 45 minutes to an hour with it, but that's 45 minutes to an hour of not knowing what the shit happens next.
Right.
And that's great. And I love Alien for it. All right, boys. We got to cut 4 of these films to make 31.
I already know what I want to cut.
All right, Billy, start one.
Insidious.
Insidious is gone. Birch.
Insidious.
Cut one.
I was gonna cut The Woman in Black, but I don't want to cut 2 from his list while he's not here.
Oh, fuck you, LB. This is what you get for leaving. You bastard.
But fuck it, Woman in Black, get out of here.
Woman in Black is gone. All right. I'm sorry, Billy.
Oh.
But this is the only one that really jives with your list. I'm cutting 7.
Perfect.
I
expected it to get cut.
It's just because, like, again, you really have like this cream of the crop of like classic horror films. The Shining. Well, this list is old because you used to have The Exorcist, but like Psycho and Let the Right One In, and then like 7 just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yes, it does.
Okay, cut. All right, who wants to cut the last one?
Can we just agree?
What do we want to cut?
I mean, in all honesty, I would put up Poltergeist 2015.
Birch, what would you like to cut? We'll find some common ground.
I didn't see that one, but I heard it was okay. I heard it.
I think the biggest problem with that one is like the same problem I had with Evil Dead. It shouldn't have been called Poltergeist.
Should have been called Spooky Ghost House.
Yeah, it should have been called Spooky
movie.
Ghost House.
That sounds like a bad Scooby-Doo cut.
Fuck yeah, let's do it. Spooky Ghost Cat 2017. The Over the Couple of Drinks movie.
Oh god, that'd be terrible. We couldn't make a movie.
Birch, what do you want to cut? Come on.
I don't know. What about it's bad because I don't want to cut a movie I haven't seen.
Yeah.
That's shitty.
And I don't want to really cut Poltergeist because it is the only spooky ghost house we have on here.
Yeah.
Spooky movie.
What about?
Or we just say fucking leave it at each of us cut one.
No, we gotta cut one more for 31. It's gonna be nice and clean, super clean.
What do you want to cut, Bill?
Just fuck up LB's list.
It's either Cemetery Man because it's so fucking weird, or Sleepy Hollow.
I don't mind losing Sleepy Hollow.
We're losing Sleepy Hollow.
That's fine. Yeah,
perfect.
That's fine.
All right. So your list for watching is as follows: Cemetery Man, Peeping Tom, Saw, Halloween, Let Me In, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, 2030, The Exorcist, Scream, Hush, The Babadook, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, Poltergeist 2015, The Conjuring, The Ring, Cabin in the Woods, 28 Days Later, The Nightmare, Evil Dead 2013, The Shining, The Exorcist, Psycho, The Shinin, Let the Right One In, It Follows, Goodnight Mommy, Event Horizon, Maggie, Krampus, The Fly 1986, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, John Carpenter's The Thing, and Alien.
This took a long time, but this was fun. I really like this.
So, thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Expect more genre studies coming soon.
Genre's coming soon. And with that, we're going to say goodnight. Chris Birch, say goodnight.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Spooky Times. That was it.
Spooky scary skeletons.
That's what's funny with that.
Good night, you beautiful people. All three of you. Grandma in Germany. We love you.